only for us, although I do listen to it as well. But welcome back to another Wisco Wednesday. I wanted to let everybody know that if you can't catch the show live, you can always rewatch it on Facebook and YouTube. But you can also find it on podcasting apps, so you can listen to it throughout the week. And then, we have our Packers shows on Friday nights. So we are available on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. I'm pretty sure it's on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. It's on pretty much everywhere you get your podcasts. So I just wanted to let people know, like, if you missed the first chunk of the show or you have to leave the show early, like a lot of people, kind of pop in and out, you can listen to the show in its entirety pretty much about 2 hours after the show is over once it gets uploaded. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So Jake, how you doing this week?
Good. Feels rushed. I don't know why. It's like the long layoff after Thanksgiving and you just jump right back into life, because you only work a couple days the first week. So I feel like every job is in it's the end of the year. It's crunch time mode, so feeling rushed is how I feel today.
All right. Well, it's going to be – there's a lot to talk about this week. We have the Badgers' final regular season game, and I have something I want to say on that when we get to the end of it. We're going to be talking about Luke Fickell. There's been a lot of, obviously, information coming out with it. We know some about what's going on with some of the coaches and stuff, but then we got 3 Badger basketball games and 3 Bucks games to talk about. So Mike is here with us too. He's our Badger guy that we like to bring on with us. So he's here with us too. So
what's up, Mikey?
Let's go through the Minnesota game. Jake, I know you and I have our 3 stars and an underrated performer. Mike, I'm not sure if you have that or not, but I'm sure you'll have plenty of thoughts to talk about with the offense and the defense. But we kind of just want to recap the game real quick, and we wanted to spend more time talking about the coaching and the future than hanging the hats on the loss to the Minnesota Golden Gophers and their weird helmets. So, Jake, who is your 3 stars and underrated performer?
I told you they were going to wear funky helmets, man. That's all they're good for now is wearing weird helmets. My 3 stars, wow, this is kind of weird. I picked the punter, Andy, this week. I thought this was a defensive battle for a while, so I thought his field positioning was key. He had 5 punts for 215 yards and a 43-yard average. Me and you have talked about how much we appreciate him. He had one kind of shitty one in this game, but he had a long of 50 and 2 inside the 20, so I thought that was key. I thought he did well. I picked Benton. I don't know if you guys saw Mike. I'm sure you did. You see everything Badgers. Tyler does too. But he was kind of snubbed on the All Big Ten teams.
Yeah, he was.
Was it Evan Floyd that was talking about it?
Yeah, Flood tweeted
Evan
that.
Flood, yeah.
Flood, yeah. Yeah, he was tweeting about it. He was talking about it. So Benton responded to him, talking about, he's underrated. He was unappreciated. He said that's what makes him play harder. So I'm not going to lie. I would not mind the Green Bay Packers taking a flyer on him in the draft. He's definitely a guy that gets a push.
I think he's going to be a day 2 pick, honestly.
Oh, yeah. And that's exactly where I want the Packers to take him because we take a lot of big guys on day 2, day 3, right? So he might fall right into our laps. Then my number 1 star is kind of becoming my guy, Njog Meta. He had 12 tackles, 9 solo, a half a sack, 2.5 tackles for loss, and a quarterback hurry. This guy is a stat line mouthful every freaking week, man. He's just putting up numbers in every single category. So I wanted to give a shout out to him. And I know I really wanted to pick somebody on offense. So I forced myself to take DK because he scored a touchdown. That was a sick play that he scored on too. Not that we had a lot of receiving yards in this game because the passing game wasn't working very well. Rushing game wasn't working very well either. But like I said, he scored that touchdown on that 9-yard double end around. So that was my underrated performer.
So I wanted to say hi to Taylor. Taylor's watching us on YouTube this week, apparently taking advantage of other viewing options. So I also had Njong Meta and Kimura DK on my list. DK did have a couple drops, but like Jake said, he did score the touchdown. I went through like an infatuation phase with Injong Meta, like in the middle of the year. He kind of lost a little bit of his consistency, and now he's picking it back up. And he was probably our best player in the running game, I would say, definitely in the first half. And then I have Keanu Benton as my underrated performer, so he definitely deserves some attention there. And as far as the offense goes, I put Isaac Arendo and Chez Malusi filling in for Braylon Allen, who we found out was going to be out, an hour before the game, hour and a half before the game. And they carried the ball 26 times for 115 yards. I know that's not a huge yards per carry, but that's over 4 yards a carry. Like I said this too, it's Minnesota's defense is pretty close to the Badgers. So, I mean, we can start with the Badgers offense. Like I said last week, Badgers and Minnesota's have somewhat similar defenses. They're almost identical in the amount of yards they give up on passes and rushes. So it's pretty close. But Jake, I'll let you give some thoughts. I'll give some thoughts, and then I'll give Mike some thoughts because I know he's going to have lots and lots of thoughts. So, Jake, go ahead.
When I think about this game, it hurts that we lost to Axe. I won't lie. This is definitely one of those games that I circle every single year because I want to win it. Not just because of the Axe, just because of fuck you, Minnesota, you know? But when I think about this game, I think of Wisconsin with the inconsistency and not taking advantage of opportunities. And I think of Minnesota being a little bit more consistent and taking advantage of the opportunities that they were presented. At the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to. The total yards, I know we only had 334 and they had 416. But the passing game was really, really the difference in this game. I know they hit a big long shot at the end to take that lead towards the end of the game, I should say. And we rushed the ball better, but third downs were very similar. We were 5 of 16. They were 5 of 14. We were 1 for 2 on fourth down. They were 0 for 1. The time of possession is very close. The Badgers held the ball for 29 minutes and 43 seconds. That's damn near half the game. So we both had the ball the same amount of time. Pretty much, like I said, the same on third downs. They took advantage of opportunities that were there, and Badgers did not. So when I think about the offense, and I think about this game in 22, not trying to get ahead of ourselves, could be the last game for a lot of people in a Badgers uniform. I'm going to think of this game as a game that made us change and turn the corner for the better. That's how I'm going to look at it, even though we lost.
Yeah. That's certainly, once we start getting a little more clarity on what the coaching staff is going to shape up as, what players are declaring. Like, I'm certainly thinking Nick Herbig is going to be kind of guy to keep an eye on. Taylor switched over to Facebook, so now we're getting comments on both. So Nick Herbig to me is a guy to keep an eye on. He's a junior, so he'll be draft eligible, and he'll probably be. My guess would be somewhere around a 5th round pick, something like that, similar to where Leo Chenal, Jack Sanborn kind of went. Or does Luke Fickell win over his loyalty and he decides to come back for a senior season? Now we're also in the age of the transfer portal where guys don't have to wait a year of eligibility on their first transfer, which I will throw this out there as far as the offense is concerned. Chez Malusi has already transferred once. So Chez Malusi would have to sit out a year because he's already transferred once. You can only do one-time transfer to play immediately, and then if you're again for that, that's when you still have to sit out a year. So I think that's worth mentioning as far as, Chez Malusi might not come back now. Chez Malusi, he's coming back. As far as this game goes in the offense, the ball, I mean, they moved the ball somewhat well here and there. It seemed like almost every other possession they moved the ball well. What I want to do is I also want to give, I should have probably put him in my stars or the underrated performer, but Van Zelst, both of the first 2 field goals that he kicked, the 40 and then the 43-yard field goals, those were both at the time his longest in his career.
Yep.
So props to him for making those. I don't think the ball spot on the Mertz slide that ended up putting them, behind the stick. I don't like the spot on that, but that's, it is what it is. Mertz made some nice throws in the middle of the game, and then we got back towards the end of the game where it's in tough spots. But Badgers get a 1st and 25 situation. They get a play, they get 2nd and 10, another play, they get down to 3rd and 3, and then they get a huge pass play to Jensen Acker. And they convert a 1st and 25, and, you get to the touchdown, and, people question Graham Mertz all the time. Graham Mertz went out there and threw a block on a linebacker. So we talk about leadership all the time. Graham Mertz, that's the stuff that a leader does. So I'm just glad to see that from Mertz. I was so bummed that he got hurt on the last drive, that he didn't get a chance to try to tie the game for us. Out of all of the things that Graham Mertz has done this season, that he's struggled mightily in games, he's played really well in other games, he's grown. That's for damn sure, that he's grown from last season to this season. For him to not get the chance to lead that final drive, I felt so bad. I felt bad for him. Like, I'm watching the game and I'm like, I'm cheering for Chase Wolf. I'm like, come on, Wolf, can we get this, can we get this tied and, try to get into overtime? But like the whole time, honestly, I had it in the back of my mind, like, I feel bad that Graham Mertz isn't out there the one, trying to lead the team to the comeback. I don't know, Mike, what are your thoughts on the offense?
Yeah, my first comment, it's more so special teams. Van Zels was my first call out. Since we couldn't really, execute, in the red zone for the most part, he kept us in the game. And that's a redshirt freshman making, 3 big time kicks for us on Saturday. So that was my first call out. I was kind of nitpicking a little bit here too, because we could have executed a lot better. Unfortunately, the inconsistencies, as it has been all season, are still there collectively overall. But I wanted to give a quick call to the offensive line. To my understanding, there was 0 sacks, I believe. So I think if you're going to grow off of something, last game of the year, the offensive line can look back at this game, because Minnesota does have a solid defensive front. I think that's something to look at, going forward. I thought Ches Malusi ran pretty hard too. He's first coming back from, how many games he missed, like 6 or 5 or 6. Sorry. I thought, he looked pretty good. So I'm looking forward. I'm assuming he'll still be coming back. He did say actually like 2 weeks ago he's coming back, but with this coaching change, right. I'm still hoping he's not going to, jump ship, and I really don't think he will. So, I thought he looked good. He's going to be another, hopefully good 1-2 punch again with Braylon next year, but that's to be determined. Those were like those 3 things: the kicker, the offensive line giving up 0 sacks, and Ches running the ball pretty well. I was hoping to see a little more of Garendo get involved too, whether that's from the run game or pass game. But that comes down to sometimes execution and consistencies. That's kind of been the story of this season. Yes, Mertz missed a few throws, but it's not just going to fall on him either. If we're talking about, from about
unfortunate.
An offensive perspective, I kind of mentioned it in the chat. Quarter 4 was my biggest disappointment, because, and it's kind of been the story of this year, when the Badgers have gotten a close lead, they kind of just lay off the gas and don't even try to make a run at it. You can call that play calling, or is that a simple execution? I think, could be a combination of both. Just when we were sitting with that 16-13 lead, we had the opportunity to go up, whether it was 6 points, 10 points. I think it was 3 or 4 straight drives. It was a dud, and we ended up punting the ball. So that was one of the most disappointing things out of this offense. I was keeping my eye on, because I know the defense, and I'm going to be talking about it, in a little bit here, but I still think 23 points should be good enough to at least put us right in the mix to win the game, or win the game in general for college football. So I just thought execution could have been a little bit better, and yeah.
On your point on the offense, or just having leads in general, it's a difference. There's a difference between playing to win and playing to not lose.
Correct.
Yep.
And that's how it felt in that fourth quarter.
And
That's basically what's that?
I feel like we've done that so much too, just as a program. Like this is not the first time this has happened before.
And I feel like that's what Nebraska was doing against Wisconsin and allowed Wisconsin to come back and beat Nebraska.
Yeah.
It feels pretty similar.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Jake, what did you see from the defense?
I saw a defense again that was let down by its offense. Like, I'm not gonna be positive about it. I'm just gonna be like straight up about it. It's disappointing. That fourth quarter, I am not gonna lie, was one of the toughest quarters of football I think I've watched in my life. I mean, just literally giving the game away. And in a big conference like the Big Ten, you cannot allow people that many opportunities to tie the game and take the lead because there's too many talented players. Yes, this was the backup quarterback from Minnesota, but he was slinging that shit. And yes, I will say this one point. It took some amazing, crazy catches for Minnesota to get down the field and to score. But that just goes to show that shit can happen if you don't have your foot on the gas. If you don't go for it, if you don't be aggressive. And the conservative nature of Wisconsin football, I feel like it's going to come to an end. I'm so goddamn excited for Luke Fickell, dude. Like, he is about to take this program and just fucking make us some killers, I feel like. And it's about goddamn time. And it's nothing against Jimmy. Jimmy was put in a really, really tough spot. But, I feel the same way about Jimmy that Tyler felt about can't think of the last coach's name now, but where you said he was wearing too many hats.
Oh, Paul
Chris. Yeah, I feel that same way about Jimmy in this moment where he's put in a situation in the middle of the season. It's a letdown season. He has to coach the defense. He has to try to earn the head coaching job. I mean, that's too many boxes to check. And then you're trying to win the Axe. And, this team's been inconsistent all season long. So for me, I did see a defense playing with a lot of heart, a lot of effort. At least this defense knew how to tackle. This Wisconsin team knows how to tackle on defense, so that's nice. But they had 8 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hurries, 3 sacks. I mean, compared to what Minnesota did, Minnesota only had 2 passes defense and 1 quarterback hurry. They didn't have no tackles for loss. I didn't write down tackles for loss. They didn't have many, I believe. But for the Wisconsin defense to be let down like this, that's terrible. I will say the one thing that I don't like is on offense, we average 5.8 yards per pass. And on defense, Minnesota averaged 11 yards per pass. That right there is a massive difference.
Well, I mean, scoring a 45-yard touchdown will help and some of the deep shots that they hit. But I want to give a little bit of credit. Shamar Melvin checked into this game and went up against Wright, Minnesota's best receiver, and he knocked some passes down. And I will say, I think it's number 9. I don't remember what his last name is. He made a catch on the sideline. There's nothing you could do about that. That's where, like I say, the good offense beats good defense every time. Because, like, I think it was Holman, he got up to try to get in the way of that ball. Like, he was flying through the air. He was in good position and had his man pinned right up against the sideline. Like, you can't play better defense than that. You really can't.
Yeah.
But a perfect throw and an insane catch, like, that's all you do is tip your cap in that situation. That's just great football. And like I said, I'm a firm believer that good offense beats good defense every time, just because there's no defense for the perfect offense. There is defense for playing zone coverage, and letting a wide receiver run right behind you is not a great recipe for zone coverage. That's what led to the 45-yard touchdown, and that I noticed that right away was that I believe it was, I don't remember if it was Smith or Clark.
I don't remember either.
Just because I was like, I think it was Let me see if I wrote it down. I think it was Alexander Smith because he made a really good pass defense on the previous drive that held Minnesota to a field goal, and his man just right behind him. Pass goes right in between him and the safety, and he's just gone. Packers fans know what that looks like because Christian Watson's done it 4 times in the last 3 weeks.
That's true.
So it's deflating, but the defense, like Mike said, they did enough that it feels like 23 points shouldn't be an insurmountable amount of points to be able to come back from. To get it to go back to the offense, but to get to first and goal from the 5-yard line and commit 4 straight penalties to get yourself first and goal from the 30, like that, I said that to you guys, like I think that was the most disorganized football I have ever seen.
Yeah.
That's coaching.
I was literally my first call out, Jake. You made a great point about Jimmy having like the too many hats type thing. I think that last possession in the game literally just defined that comment that you just said right there. I honestly think, like,
because I mean, hey, when Paul Chris was here, he was the quarterback's coach.
Yeah.
Last year, he was the offensive coordinator and the offensive play caller. In addition, this year he was just the head coach and the quarterback's coach. But
that could have been like. I know there's a lot of things going into like the new coaching search, obviously, but that last possession could have been like the final demise of like, okay, the organizational part. I mean, this is a shit show. Start part of my language.
Say what you feel, man.
I could not agree with you more on that. That is like the perfect, comment in my view. So
give credit to Tyler because he gave me the idea.
Yeah.
And immediately when I'm watching it, the first thing I thought of was Tyler saying he's wearing too many hats. I'm like, Jimmy's not ready for this, man. And it hurts me to say that. It really does. Because
I know.
You know how we all love Jim Leonard.
We
right?
all love him, yep.
We love what he means. He knows what it means to be a Badger. Like, he represents us, like, phenomenally.
Look it up in the dictionary, and it's a picture of Jim Leonard, Wisconsin
Badgers.
Badger.
It's him or J.J. Watt. I'll be honest. It's a tie. For me, it's a tie.
Okay with that.
But
if J.J. Watt comes back and coaches our D-line next year, then it's J.J. Watt.
We'll put ideas in our heads now.
Yeah, settle down, man. Don't get me too excited. But like,
hey, Taylor, don't you forget it. Putting that on the screen. I don't give a shit.
At the end of the day, when I was watching that last drive, that pretty much, and then I heard about Fickell. I was just kind of like, I'm all right with it. After watching that, I was like, okay, we need a leader.
Mike, you talk about the defense. I'm going to go back in my notes and find out where I talked about maybe the Badgers going for an identity change.
Yeah, the defense. I mean, it looked like it was going to be a complete bloodbath, like right in the beginning, like in the first quarter. They absolutely were torching us. I mean, I think I was messaging you guys like every 5 minutes, like what the hell's going on here? But it seemed like once Herbig came back into the game in the second half, they finally got that jolt that they needed. Finally got their shit together. And then unfortunately, they played for about like a good quarter and a half of football and just put us in a position to win, which is what you want as a defense at the end of the day. Unfortunately, we did give up the big plays. And John Torchio, he actually called this out in a press conference after the game. Like, they were expecting, run, which, I mean, Ibrahim had 27 carries for, 70 yards. So we did a pretty good job collectively overall with the run game. So, that's pretty much, Ches Malusi had 19 carries for 75 yards. So if you want to put comparison. So, no, the run defense for the most part was good. We did give up a couple runs, but that's a great running back. But, Torchio called it out straight up, like after the game. They're like, yeah, we did not expect them to, pass this much against us. So that made it sound like, okay, where you may just not have been prepared for it or, just going into
creeping up constantly.
That was one of the biggest things that stood out to me personally because we did get gashed, as you did say, 11 yards per completion. So big plays that we gave up. I mean, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to fault this defense for this game specifically. We were in a position to win and at least tie once, if not twice. It just comes down to execution. We did miss some tackles, but Mima, like you said, he had 12 tackles. He's starting to come along. We just got to find a way to put it together. And thankfully, we do have a young defense. We got most of the guys, knock on wood, that will be, coming back next year. And, especially our inside linebacking core, I think, these last couple games can be something to, build upon, because, they're part of the reason why we've been able to at least stay in these games.
So for when I looked back, it was after they lost to Washington State that I was asking if the Badgers needed a change in philosophy, because I believed with this, this play style of run the ball, control the clock, just run tons of plays style of play. What I said then was that I believed that it made them easier to upset. I did say that I do think it makes it easier for them to upset other teams if they can control the game that way. But when you get into a team like an Ohio State that has such a dominant offense, you have to be able to keep up regardless. Because like I said, and like I have said, good offense beats good defense every time. So you can walk into Ohio State with a number one defense and still give up 30, 40, obviously 50 points. But if your offense is predicated on scoring 20, it doesn't matter how good your defense is. And obviously we saw that with the Ohio State game. Now, when it comes to Luke Fickell, so that's where we're going to go. And this is the thing we probably going to be the hottest topic for this week, is the hiring of Luke Fickell. To have the support of guys like, obviously we mentioned Evan Flood, Travis Beckham, former Badger, Barry Alvarez, to say something like, I think this is a home run hire. I'm excited. Badgers fans should be excited. It's a new era for Badger football, is what Barry Alvarez said. It's a new era. For Luke Fickell to come in, 57-18 at Cincinnati, including out of those 18 losses, 8 of them came in his first season in 2017. So 4-8 in 2017, 11-2 in 2018. Now, I'm not saying I expect the Badgers to go 4-8 next year, because I don't, but I'm going to say give it a year at least, and not be, say the Badgers start out 2-3 again, and people are like, oh, we need to fire Fickell just like we fired Paul Chryst. It's not going to be the same thing. Obviously, it's going to take some time just to get everything going the way that Fickell wants to and has his vision and stuff, which is obviously something that Chris McIntosh said like 4,000 times, that they have the same vision for the program.
Yeah.
But you get to 2021. Cincinnati beats number 9 Notre Dame, number 21 Houston. They go 12-0. They get ranked up to number 4. They lose to Alabama in the playoff. Basically, Luke Fickell did everything at Cincinnati that we want to do at Wisconsin. He won more, he won a bunch. Then he went to the playoff, obviously lost, but being in the playoff of the top 4 teams in the entirety of college football is where the Badgers want to be. And then I want to say this. I did mention that Barry Alvarez gave this hiring like his stamp of approval, but I think that this hiring says more about Chris McIntosh than it does about Jim Leonhard. 100%. And the reason I believe that to be the case is that Chris McIntosh, he's been the athletic director since July of last year. So not even a year and a half that he's been the athletic director. This is basically his first opportunity. Like firing Paul Chryst was the first, I should say, because that's less of an opportunity, but more of an adjustment to make in the program. But this was Chris McIntosh's first opportunity to decide the type of athletic director he was going to be when it comes to the football program. And he said, we're not just going to keep doing the same things that we've been doing and expect a different result. We're going to do something different and expect a different result. That's what this says to me. And that's where I believe that this signals an identity shift in the program. And that's where I think a lot of the optimism related to this hiring comes from. So, Jake, give me your thoughts first on the Luke Fickell hiring, and then we'll get into what we think it means for Jim Leonhard and beyond.
First of all, get off my notes because I have a reference where I compare it to NFL teams. So I'll start with that. So when a team hires a new GM, what's usually the first thing that happens? He brings his coach in and they get their quarterback, right? That is the foundation of NFL rosters. Obviously, with the Packers, you have a former MVP who became, a two-time MVP again, but he brought his coach in, right? That's what happens. With McIntosh, he said, all right, well, he's not the guy. Gave another guy a chance. He's not the guy. All right, I'm going to get my guy. He goes and gets Luke Fickell.
You got the best guy.
Yeah.
When he went out and he got Fickell and seeing how giddy he was on that stage, I was like, oh, yeah, this was his fucking target. And none of us saw this coming. I'll say that right now.
Sunday came like out of nowhere.
Yeah, all of a sudden I was like, Luke Fickell. I was like, what? No way he's leaving Cincinnati. He's got he has it down there. Like they were on an upward trend like this, right? Yeah. And I wrote down the AP high. My daughter's losing her shit right now, if everybody can hear that. I wrote down the AP high and the AP post from 2017 to 2022 for the Wisconsin Badgers and Luke Fickell while he was at Cincinnati. So in 2017, they were not ranked the entire season. They went 4-8. Post, they were not ranked. In 2018, this is Luke Fickell in Cincinnati. They got up to number 19. They got up as high as 19, and they finished the season ranked 24. So we'll do 2017, 2018 for the Badgers. In 2017, the Badgers were really fucking good, by the way. They got all the way up to number 3, and they finished the season ranked number 7. In 2018, they got all the way up to number 4. They finished the season not ranked. 2019, 2020, right? Cincinnati gets all the way up to number 17, and they finish at 21st. In 2020, they got all the way up to number 6, and they finished the season ranked number 8. I would love for that to happen for Wisconsin. I'll say that right now. So 2019, 2020 for the Badgers, right? 2019, they got all the way up to number 6. They finished the season ranked 11th. 2020, they got up to number 9. They finished the season unranked. By the way, that's a trend that's going to start. In 2021, obviously, me and Tyler talked about it, I know. Cincinnati got up to number 2. I think I would shit my pants if Wisconsin got to number 2 right now.
Right.
In 2021, they finished.
Who's number 1 in that situation? If the Badgers get up to number 2, who's number 1 in that situation? Because I think it's a really interesting question.
Probably like a Bama or somebody, I would say.
I mean, the 3 teams that I think of are Alabama, Ohio State, or Georgia. But
I mean, well, not to get off topic, but Michigan might be taking over. I'm just saying right now. Michigan, they got 2 Ohio recruits that were at the game for Ohio State to flip to Michigan on that game.
Real quick on that subject.
Yeah.
When the Badgers got Luke Fickell and I'm trying to read as many things like as rapidly as I can on Sunday to try to figure out, what his deal is. The number of Ohio State fans in there punching the air because they wanted Luke Fickell at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. It was funny to watch.
Okay. If they want to fire Ryan Day for losing 1 game a year, literally jump off a cliff. That's all I'm going to say. So go back to the Badgers real quick. In 2021, they got all the way up to number 12, finished the season unranked again. So this year we were as high as number 18. We're going to finish the season unranked. I didn't write down the AP post for Cincinnati because if they win their bowl game, they'll probably finish ranked. But 4 of the last 6 seasons, the Wisconsin Badgers have finished the season unranked. That should make you fucking sick because it makes me sick. I don't want that anymore.
I don't like it.
I want to be ranked. And 2 of the last 3 seasons, including this season, Cincinnati's finished the season ranked in the top 10. Yeah, give me that. Give me a guy, Luke Fickell, that knows how to coach, that knows how to lead men.
Yeah.
I mean, and for all the people that are talking about, but that was the Cincinnati. This guy was a successful defensive coordinator at Ohio State. They were dominant for years when he was there. He's a former player. He understands what it's like to go to battle. I am so goddamn excited. I feel like the Badgers have a fucking man in charge.
Yes.
I mean, there was times where I'm watching Paul Chryst and I'm like, is this guy just watching the game like me? Like, does he think he's on his couch right now? There was no fire. And then with Jimmy, the players were playing hard because they loved him. And I love that so much. I would have played hard for Jimmy too if I was in their shoes. But God damn it, we need a head coach.
Yes.
You could tell. And Luke Fickell is a head coach. This guy has groomed himself into a great leader of men. And I could not be more happy. I did not see this coming. And I had one of those feelings where you're just like pleasantly surprised. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, Sunday's good, even if the Packers lose, you know?
Yeah.
That overshadowed everything.
Yes.
And
yes.
Like last night's basketball game.
Yep. 100%.
Oh man. There was a brief moment on Sunday when the Packers took the lead. The Bucks were beating the hell out of the Mavericks, and we got Luke Fickell, and I'm like, Wisconsin sports feels good today.
We're on the upswing, right?
Well, I believe we are on the upswing, even with some of the things that are happening with all of the sports teams.
I agree.
But so, Mike, I want to get your thoughts on Luke Fickell. I want to ask you guys separately about what you guys think it means for recruiting, but just give me your general thoughts first, and then we'll talk about recruiting and Jim Leonard yet.
Okay. Yeah. You were talking, Tyler, about earlier about like player support. JJ Watt was another one of those guys as well. He's made that clear. And Travis Beckham, the former, he's been in the league for a long time. He was another one of those guys that's on board with this decision. The biggest call out, I think, out of all of this is you guys kind of mentioned it, but straight up, Chris McIntosh put his nuts on the table in front and made this decision. Like his nuts are all you see Twitter and then the Twitter space. I'm paying attention to all of this, and the amount of meltdowns you will see, whether it's from Badgers alumni or long-term season ticket holders, about like how like this process went down, and you just see them go off about the whole process in general. I can only imagine how much scrutiny Chris McIntosh did get for this decision, not doing it the Wisconsin way, so to speak, how traditional we are. I just like the backlash that I did see out of all of this from those, types of people. It's just been unreal. And, Luke Fickell, like you guys said, he was not in our leaderboards, when we did that segment or two, like
nope.
The segment.
Yeah, when Paul Chris got fired and we each gave 3 candidates, he was not on any of our lists.
No. I don't think we probably did not see this coming because we were kind of, I'll be the first to admit, like you asked me, I bet he would be the first guy in line to take that potential Ohio State job should it come up. So it's like, what do you, he turned down enough jobs. He turned down, what was it, USC, Notre Dame,
Oklahoma,
LSU,
Michigan State.
Yeah, Michigan State, even most recently as well. So, for him to think about like, oh, Wisconsin, yeah, but I'll take the Wisconsin job.
He used the word perfect. He used that word.
Yes. Evan Flood put it in a great way too. I thought he said, this is option 1A or 1B. And, if it's between him or Jim Leonard, you got to go with 1A, and that is Luke Fickell. I'm going to go, Jake gave the stats. I'm going to go off of like some of the stuff he said, in his intro press conference that, definitely got me, somewhat juiced. First off, what the first call out I would say, he did clearly state that with college football, it is all about the guys up front. That is Wisconsin football for the most part to a T. So I definitely got jacked up about that.
McIntosh probably had a boner when he said that too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, he's putting his nuts on the line, Fickell, in this comment as well. As far as expectations go, he's saying straight up, we're playing for championships. I think, I don't think that's a bad expectation to have as a Wisconsin coach. However, I do think, I think a lot of fans are going to be like, okay, yeah, I see this comment. How soon is this happening? So, I think making, those kinds of comments, it gets you fired up, because I will say he's a guy that knows how to conduct a room. You kind of touched base on it, but already it doesn't take long to hear some of the stuff he says, and it's like, all right, I'm listening, I'm locked in, let's go. The 300-mile radius comment when it comes to recruiting, I mean, for the most part, some of the absolute best players that have come through the Wisconsin program are locals, within the state or, right outside of it. So he fits that sort of philosophy that I think we're looking for. And that's the one thing I personally wanted to hear in regards to, as far as recruiting goes. And we're going to touch base on that shortly. His standards when it comes to transfers, he's made it clear, and we're kind of on the same page. I feel like on this with Wisconsin, we don't accept transfers that easily. Like you have to fit the perfect, criteria in order to get into the program. So he's all about player development. And I think once again, that's what Wisconsin football is. And I think, those are the biggest things that, McIntosh has obviously looked at. And I just think at the end of the day, he's just going to emphasize all of those steps and go way above and beyond with his recruiting. He's been, noted by many, many assistant coaches and from other walks of life that he is a great recruiter. No matter what state he has walked into, it could be I forget who said this, but you could send him to Maryland for the first time ever, and he'll come out with a relationship from the head football coach from the high school that you're recruiting at. So it sounds like he's going to be a great recruiter. I think that's a great goal to have with the whole 300-mile radius thing. Plus, you got the state of Ohio. Ohio State doesn't take all Ohio kids. There's going to be plenty of fish out there for us to, catch, I feel.
Especially once we get into 2023 when UCLA and USC are going to be in the Big Ten, and there's going to be California kids watching Big Ten football.
Yep.
And it's not it's not really a far stretch of the imagination to say that the USC and UCLA will be in the Big Ten West, where the Badgers currently reside. So the Badgers are going to be playing UCLA and USC probably every season.
Correct. I was just going to make one more point. Ahead. I think he's holding himself accountable too. I think, based off of all these comments, just as much as McIntosh. I mean, yeah, they're buddies. They come from the same cloth. They both got Rose Bowls. They're both academic All-Americans. They got some of the same stuff going on. They're both linemen. So they got some of the same mentality, I think, when it comes to, certain things in college football. It's all about the line. It's all about up front. So, I'm super excited for this. It still pains me a little bit that Jim Leonard didn't get the job, but, Jake gave us all the stats with like his history, his recruiting, historically has been great no matter what kind of room he walks into. So I think he's just going to emphasize, especially the recruiting part of things. And that's really going to get us maybe to the top of the mountain, if not over it.
So I have some of the recruiting class rankings that I want to go through, but I want to say two things before I bring those out. First, it is entirely possible and reasonable to be excited for Luke Fickell and bummed for Jim Leonard at the same time.
100%.
You can have both. You can't, it's not that you can only choose one. Like you can't be excited for Luke Fickell and that automatically means that you hate Jim Leonard. That's not how it works. And it's not that you can't, wish Jim Leonard would have gotten the job. And that means you can't be excited for Luke Fickell. Like you can have both. You can have both. And I'm going to say this on Friday night too when we get into Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. But that's a different discussion for a different day. The other thing I want to say is when I mentioned that I believe that this is going to signal an identity shift for the program is not only with the recruiting, but also with the style of play. So you look at the Wisconsin way, the quote unquote, the Wisconsin way. Like I said, you keep doing the same things you've always done and expecting different results. Eventually, you got to throw a wrench in that plan. And the new athletic director is throwing that wrench in that plan. Wisconsin this season ran the ball on 58% of their plays and passed on 42%. Cincinnati passed the ball on 53% of the plays and ran on 47%. I think Wisconsin's probably going to fall almost exactly like 50-50, like right in the middle there. But, like, I'm not going to lie. Like, just for the sake of wanting to see something different as far as Badgers offense is concerned, I almost want to go like the Badgers to go like full air raid. I just want opposing teams to be scared of Wisconsin's offense, not just all right. They got a bunch of 300-pound dudes and they're gonna run at us 45 times. Like I like that because it's it's Wisconsin football is to have all the big guys, which I think they will still do. But I want to see those big guys pass blocking a little more often and to have, an offense that it's like, shit, we got to play the Badgers this week. Like they're good on offense and defense. Not they're good on defense and okay sometimes on offense.
I agree
That's
with that.
the shift that I want to change. Now, oh man, this is ugly. All right. So first of all, Cincinnati put 9 guys in the draft in 2022. 9.
That's crazy, bro.
Dang.
That's third behind Georgia and Alabama.
Think about that.
Cincinnati.
Have we ever done that? 9 guys in 1 year? I don't know.
Maybe if you include undrafteds, but I don't think we've ever had 9 guys drafted.
What about the year we had Erasmus James? Remember when that whole defensive line got drafted? And Erasmus James went in the first round?
I'm just going to Google it.
Yeah. Because 9 dudes, that is absolutely insane. Obviously, you got the SEC schools, but.
And Sauce Gardner was like a top 5 pick. I want a Sauce Gardner playing for the Badgers, bro.
Yeah, he's already said that Fickell reached out to him and said, hey, you're part of the reason why I'm in this position. Thank you so much. And I guess he's going to visit Madison at some point in the future.
Oh, Madison's got the sauce.
Badgers had 5 drafted in 2022.
I mean, the thing about the lineman thing, I just want to touch on that real quick, Tyler. Yes, I love that we have big maulers and we can just fucking run over you like monster trucks, but I would like a blend of guys that could, hit you in your mouth and also guys that could be a little bit finesse. I mean, I think that would be a nice change of pace for the Badgers. I think Fickell's gonna, man, the possibilities. I mean, my mind is just going insane with all the possibilities, man. And I'm trying to temper my expectations for year 1 because I know there's going to be a learning curve. I mean, that's just God given,
and growing pains. Yeah,
it's gonna happen. But the possibilities of imagine the Badgers being like a number 4 and facing Ohio State in early November and Ohio State's number 2. Like, I am excited for that. I am fucking excited for that, dude. Like, I don't even I care if we win.
Dude,
obviously, I'm not gonna say that, but just being in that position.
Oh, go ahead.
Awesome.
All right, go ahead.
That's all I'm gonna say. Just being in that position is what I'm excited for.
I was just gonna say, imagine number 8 USC and number 9 Wisconsin going at it under some Saturday Night Lights.
I think at Madison, bro.
oh man, that's exciting to think about.
I'll tell you, those California teams versus us, that's gonna be fucking interesting, man. And I know the national media now that Michigan is what it is, and they're kind of back now. I'll say they're back. Michigan, Ohio State versus those, versus USC, those are gonna be some fucking games, man. Like, just as a football fan,
those are gonna be like NFL light games.
Yeah, those are gonna be awesome. I mean, Harbaugh has Michigan playing so goddamn tough, and obviously Ohio State is Ohio State. They're gonna get a bazillion 5 stars. USC looks like they're on that trend, and UCLA is kind of like a Wisconsin, I would say, where every once in a while they just pop into the top 10. You're like, damn, they're kind of good, The possibilities, with them coming over that, and if Notre Dame comes over, boy, we about to run shit.
Because it's gonna basically be a Power 2. It's not gonna be Power 5 conferences anymore. It's gonna be Power 2.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna be the Big Ten. It's gonna be the SEC.
I can't wait to pick on Notre Dame fans though, because they're so fucking soft. They're like Cowboy fans in college, dude. I'm excited for that.
We get them at Lambeau. I don't think it's next season. It might be the season after.
2024.
Keep in mind, yeah.
Luke Fickell will have this train running smoothly by then, boy.
Right?
So, of the 9 guys that Cincinnati put in the draft last year, they had 1 top 5 pick, which was Sauce Gardner. They had 2 second-round picks and 2 third-round picks.
That's really good.
5 of their 9 were selected in the first 3 rounds of their draft.
That's pretty. Those are good fucking football
From
players.
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So Sauce Gardner, Myjai Sanders, Alec Pierce. I mean, the Packers have one in Josiah DeGuara, who was drafted a couple years ago. But Brian Cook, Kobe Bryant, all these guys are in the NFL. Alec Pierce is third on the Colts in receptions this season as a rookie. Obviously, Sauce Gardner's, I would say you might as well already crown him as the defensive player of the year for rookies. He's kind of already like far and run away with that. But to put 5 guys in the first 3 rounds from a non-Power 5 school.
And here's the kicker. Something that we always struggle with. 2 of those 5 are corners. Think about that.
Ball out.
Yeah. Yes.
Think about that with the big guys and the pressure that we can create with our front 7. Imagine some lockdown corners.
Mm-hmm.
We really fuck some shit up.
Man, I tooted my horn about if there's always one thing we can fix. It's always the It's the secondary in the corner.
Mm-hmm. I think our safety play has been pretty solid this season.
Yeah.
Kamoi Latu kind of came out of nowhere. He was backing up Hunter Wohler, and then Wohler came back and he played pretty decent. And then we had the ball hawk, John Torchio running around. But so, man, this is the painful part. So this is according to 24/7 Sports. It's a branch of CBS Sports. Their recruiting rankings for 2022 had Cincinnati at 42, Wisconsin at 44, which is fine. 2023, they have Cincinnati at 27, Wisconsin at 62.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It gets worse. Sorry. Rivals had Cincinnati at 44, Wisconsin at 46 for 2022. For 2023, they had Cincinnati at 26, Wisconsin at 64.
All of that's not good.
It gets worse.
Oh, no.
ESPN for 2023 has Cincinnati at 27, Wisconsin at 85.
Yeah.
No fucking way.
Was that before like two of their recent commits just decommitted? Like
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think it was from November, so it was about 3 weeks ago that the article that I read was written from the rankings that I got.
So that worse.
I'm really sincerely hoping that those flip with Fickell coming over,
right?
And that the Badgers can make a big jump in recruiting for 2023. I don't expect it. Like we said, we don't expect all of this to happen instantly, but if we can make a dent in that gap, I would be happy. Even if, just to get into the top 50 for recruiting would be a 30-plus jump as far as ESPN's rankings go. But, 24/7 Sports had the Badgers at 62, and Rivals had them at 64 for next year. So, there's a lot of work to be done in recruiting. So, Jake, Mike, you kind of touched on a little bit of recruiting stuff a little bit, but what does the Luke Fickell hire mean to you guys as far as recruiting goes?
Well, shit. You just shifted everything in my brain with those fucking numbers, I'll tell you that. But hearing that he's bringing I believe it's his top 2 recruiters over, that is wonderful. And that's what I was going to hit on, is he's bringing his boys over. His trusted henchmen, as I'll call them right now, the guys that do the dirty work and make the product in the field look a little bit prettier with getting all these athletes. I was actually diving into the recruiting class coming in, and they have a 4-star quarterback and, a 4-star tight end. I believe, was that one of them that decommitted, Mike?
One of the guys that decommitted was a corner wide receiver.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was a 4-star.
Committed so far, but
that's the one I saw. Yeah. Okay. So, little story time. We were painting a place, and I was talking to one of the workers because I had to ask for the garbage, blah, blah, blah. And we started talking about Badgers because the Fickell news just came out, and this was on Monday. And I was like, oh, man, I'm kind of hoping that 4-star quarterback can be flipped. And here's how fucked up our fan base is. He's like, we meant nothing with Mertz. I'm just like, all right, I am never talking to that human ever again. I want to throw you in the garbage right now.
He might watch one game a month.
Yeah.
Right.
But
You
it's
probably
like,
watched the Ohio State game and the Iowa game.
it's gonna be such a different scenario. So to bring up a player that has had a number of different offensive coordinators, a number of different coaches now, number of different players he's played with, offensive lines, running backs, wide receivers. The scenarios that Mertz has been thrown into is just unfair to compare him to anybody else, right? So that's just what I want to say about that
And he
situation.
still improved.
Don't do that, okay? You just sound dumb when you don't give context to what you're saying, okay?
You sound
Take
like a
everything
dick.
into consideration. Yeah. But if we can get some quarterback recruits, if we can start getting some skill position recruits, because we talked about the Wisconsin way, and holy shit, am I tired of having that conversation. I'll tell you that right now. The Wisconsin way. It ain't fucking working. Okay?
Yeah.
Correct.
I'm sorry.
I mean, your stats of when they started ranked and finished unranked, that tells you like the Wisconsin way, like it needs to change.
working.
You can't keep doing the same thing and expecting something different.
The same old people that have all the season tickets, if you're watching, I apologize. They're the reason the Packers don't have cool uniforms. They're the reason the Badgers don't do cool stuff with their uniforms. And I know that stuff doesn't matter, but let me tell you, to an 18-year-old kid that goes on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and he sees Oregon with all these cool uniforms and, Ohio State and Michigan and all these other teams, and they come up with all these cool alternate uniforms, that shit matters. So all this 100-year-old shit that happened all these years ago, and we were winning all these games and all this shit, it doesn't matter anymore. Okay?
It's not the early 90s anymore.
So we need to adapt to new times. And Luke Fickell talked about change and kind of started making me think about myself. Like, damn, man, I need to be more accepting with change, man. Like, I'm stuck in a rut, He started talking to me. But we needed to adapt, and we needed to get with the times. The recruiting thing, I think that's just going to happen. I think, when I was listening to Luke Fickell talk and Mike talked about it, this is a guy that can control a room, right? So imagine this guy coming in. You're a 17-year-old kid. You're undecided. Yeah, that guy's going to talk me into coming to Wisconsin. That's just how I feel about it. Plus, his top 2 recruiters are there, man. Obviously, they know how to spot some talent. They know how to get guys that fit his system. So I am not at all worried about the recruiting side of Luke Fickell.
Mike, you got any recruiting thoughts on Fickell?
It's just like putting the emphasis on it, like how much of a commitment. It's not just him. Like McIntosh even made it clear in the press conference. Yes, we are going to give Fickell these resources. We do have. He made it clear we're going to have brand new facilities going up in a couple of years. Like Jake said, with the Oregon stuff, that shit matters. So just making those kinds of commitments, because I mean, you've heard it for the last year when Paul Chris was at the Realm, how much like the recruiting department, we can debate about this, whatever, that it was like neglected a little bit. Like they clearly could have put more time into like some of these kids, or put some more extra time into recruiting, just in general. There was an article, like I think it was right around last season, where there was one kid that ended up committing to Michigan, actually, that visited Wisconsin one day, and not one like recruiting person knew who this kid was. So it's just, putting a huge emphasis from just knowing who your players are, and from like a recruiting budget standpoint. If you take in comparison to the Big Ten, I'm pretty sure we're definitely bottom half when it comes into using more resources and money to, get out there and recruit, kids to come to the university. So I think along with like I think that salary that Fickell's going to get, because it's like a $3 million raise, it's like 7.7 per year. I think
starts at 7.5 and gets as high as 7.8, I believe I saw.
Yeah. So I think, when I think that's obviously some more substantial than what Chris made, or Jimmy when he was intern, whatever. I think just like starting with that definitely says like, hey, like Wisconsin's all about the football program now. Like, we want you, come here. We're going to give you this. And then I think going along with like that interview process, like Fickell had to have asked about like, okay, what kind of resources am I going to have? I want this, this, and this if I'm even going to come to Wisconsin. And he's made it clear, not only with like bringing in 2 recruiting specialists, he's bringing in his top dog with strength and conditioning as well. Or case in point, we just put in 9 guys in the NFL. So I think that's one guy that you want to listen to when it comes to, getting big and strong to put on for the boys. So, and I think Jake mentioned it too. We have to adapt. We've mentioned it on previous segments before. We've been kind of behind the 8 ball when it comes to that sort of thing. And I just think too, part of with the interview process, I'm willing to bet McIntosh was like, okay, I know I love Jimmy, but I think he's coming from, he might have too many Paul Christ, similarities when it comes to that sort of thing. Cause it has actually been, I have seen through the Twitter sphere as well that when it comes to recruiting, Jimmy didn't necessarily bring in, didn't actually be the head recruiter on some kids. That was more so of the Bobby Aprils, D-line coach, etc. So I think just with Fickell, with his recruiting background in general, that's what I'm most excited about. He gets out in the grindstone. He goes, he just puts in a lot of time and effort into it. So just a huge emphasis from a budget standpoint, and the amount of, potential associates that will be working in the recruiting department. That is I'm so looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
So the last thing I want to bring up with the Luke Fickell hiring is what we think about Jim Leonard. Now, we've said this, and I'm sure all three of us are going to echo this again, that Jim Leonard is what it means to be a Badger. And like I said, too, we can be excited for Fickell and still want the best for Jim Leonard, preferably outside the Big Ten, just so that, we don't have to coach against them and hope that things don't work out for him at least once a year. Personally, the example that I gave was for Jim Leonard to go the Dave Aranda route and, get a job in another conference and, have success, just not here.
Yeah.
Because what it does sound like is that, in addition to all the guys that Mike mentioned he's bringing along, it does sound like he's bringing along his co-defensive coordinators. I'm not sure if he's bringing along his offensive coordinator or not. I didn't see anything about that. I heard he's actually going to interview for the Cincinnati head coaching job.
Correct. We're seeing the same things there.
Yeah. So bottom line, he's bringing his co-defensive coordinators. One, I believe, is the linebackers coach, and the other one, I believe, is the DB coach. So we were just talking about corners and safeties. Those are the guys you want coming along with him if Jim Leonard isn't able to be convinced, which Mike let us know today that those two were supposed to have another meeting. They met on Friday, apparently. And then McIntosh basically said that him and Fickell see the world the same way and said the decision on Jim Leonard is between them. So it's basically going to be up to Fickell to try to convince Jim Leonard to stick around. And, so this is the exact quote. McIntosh said it's between them. I don't know if it could happen. He said if it could, probably only under someone like Luke, who has gone through it himself. So Luke Fickell in 2012 was the interim head coach for Ohio State. And then after, when Urban Meyer that was brought on at Ohio State then?
I believe so.
Yes.
Luke Fickell went back to his position as co-defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got the experience of being in a position, going to interim, and then going back to that position. So if anybody can convince Jim Leonard to do that, it's going to be Luke Fickell.
Yep.
But like I said, with the guys that he's bringing along, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. And I'm going to put this out there right now. If Jim Leonard leaves, be prepared for others to follow. One guy that I'm going to throw out right away is going to be at the top of the list of people to keep an eye on is going to be Braylon Allen. I don't want that to be the case, and obviously, Luke Fickell is going to talk to him before it gets to that point. The first time that players can start entering the transfer portal and transferring is December 5th, is the first day that they can do that. So that is going to be a day to keep an eye on here in the next week. Is December 5th. That's Monday. That's the first day that guys can start transferring. Braylon Allen is going to be the first one to keep an eye on if Jim Leonard is gone. Nick Herbig is probably going to be another one to keep an eye on, whether it means that he goes to a different school or to the NFL. But we have to be prepared for that to happen, for guys to transfer because Jim Leonard isn't going to be here. mainly on the defensive side of the ball, because that's where those guys have some of those stronger relationships.
Mhm.
Those guys were some of the ones that were more outspoken on Jim Leonard not getting the job. Now, what I want to say when it comes to that is I'm also, it'd be bummed to lose some of those guys, especially a guy like Braylon Allen, but I'm also equally as excited for who it means comes here because of Luke Fickell.
Mhm.
We're talking about all the coordinators that he's potentially bringing with him. What about some of those players? Like you mentioned the 4-star quarterback. What if he follows Luke Fickell to Wisconsin? Caleb Williams followed Lincoln Riley to USC, and now he's going to win the Heisman this year.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's clear cut number one right now in my view.
I agree. So that's the type of situation we're talking about here, where I mentioned those higher recruiting ranks for Cincinnati. Just grab a handful of them on your way out, Fickell, and bring them over.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get your guys' thoughts, Jake and Mike, what this means for Jim Leonard, and we'll call it there. But go ahead.
I'll keep this short and sweet. I've said this for a while. I usually say it about the NFL, but it can translate to all levels of sports, football mainly. Some guys are just not head coaches. The first guy I think of, I've had a ton of conversations about the Raiders head coach, Josh McDaniels. That guy's not a head coach.
Yep.
He is a brilliant offensive coordinator.
Yep.
He went to Denver, obviously failed there, went back to New England, and he was successful.
Almost became our coach. Oh,
he was
almost
successful.
our coach.
Yeah, I know. He was successful with multiple coaches, multiple quarterbacks. Now he's the coach of the Raiders, and obviously you're seeing the mess that is the Oakland Raiders that, have 2 wins in a row, and everybody's like, oh, Packers don't have 2 wins in a row. Give me a break, okay? I mean, they won in overtime the last 2 weeks. They easily could have lost both of those games. Right. But some guys are just not meant to be head coaches.
Matt Patricia.
I'm not trying to talk shit, but I just don't see Jimmy as a head coach type. I think he's one of those guys that could be an elite coordinator. He could be an elite defensive coordinator, and that's not a bad thing to say. That's not a bad thing to be either. If you're a specialist, if you're a specialist at something, just be a specialist at it. Jimmy, if you're listening, if this gets to you some way somehow, you love Madison. You literally turned down the Green Bay fucking Packers, dude. The Green Bay Packers. And I know you love Madison, but dude, the Packers, you turned them down because you love Madison to stay the D coordinator. Now, I know you might have some hurt feelings, but I need you to look in your heart, and I need you to make this decision, as true to yourself, as pure to yourself as you can. The best decision for Jim Leonard is to stay as a DC of the Wisconsin Badgers. I firmly believe that. I do think that he's going to leave, though. And I don't think it has anything to do with who Fickell is bringing along. I think he's going to put his heart over his head.
Yeah. That was
Go ahead, Mike. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that was a really, really good closing point.
I didn't even write anything down, dude. That was straight from the heart.
That was the heart. Yeah. That whole spiel, that was from the heart. No, I mean, in this whole process, we're excited for Luke Fickell, but let's get something straight here. This whole process has been very, very bittersweet. And when you keep thinking about the moments with Jimmy, it's really, really bitter at times for me when you think about it. He's like the poster boy for Wisconsin football. From Little Tony, Wisconsin, came in as a walk-on. You guys know the story. 2-time All-American. He's literally the poster child for the university. And I think this just goes back to what I was kind of saying before. You have to hire the guy who's been around the program his whole life. He knows it better than anybody else. But I mean, with having that conversation with Luke Fickell, I do think from that kind of perspective, you do know Fickell's going to keep that in mind too. I mean, not just with his history, but maybe also with recruiting. He can probably help out with a lot of in-state kids to, or at least get him accustomed to some of those top high school coaches within state, at least to introduce them to the coach from Arrowhead or De Pere or whatever, etc. That's just another big thing that I think he could bring to the table if he's as DC. That being said, that conversation, we've already, I think, heard about the kind of scheme that Cincinnati does run. It is different from Jim Leonard. We need to keep that in mind as well. Who knows if they can come to some sort of consensus on that? I don't know. I don't know what's going in the back of what's going on in Jimmy's head when they're having that conversation from a schematic standpoint, if that even gets brought up. But Cincinnati runs a 3-3-5, right? Jimmy's primary is a 3-4. Can you adjust to that? Maybe. Fickell has already said he is adaptable. He said that in his press conference as well. He is willing to have that conversation with Jimmy to maybe, does it work out? Maybe. If it doesn't, we shouldn't be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler made another good point. If Jimmy leaves, recruits are being told right now, or these kids don't think with just like pure emotion. But I think people need to also realize, like, if you're a kid and you're committing to like a school, like you're expecting these coaches to be around for your whole career, 3, 4, 5, 6 years to some kids. I think, following that footprint with being how, player friendly, like Wisconsin, or what's the coachable players coach, that kind of system within the Wisconsin program, whether it was with Paul Chryst or Jimmy Leonard, I think that will ultimately play a role with a lot of these kids that I think, knock on wood, but I do think a good chunk are going to end up transferring, unfortunately. But that's just, with being a player's coach, I think that just holds, to a high, or not a high standard. It just holds to that kind of like perspective for, some people. So at the end of the day, I would still love to have Jim Leonard as a defensive coordinator. We gave Fickell $7.7 million or whatever that is. Let's up Jimmy's salary. That's one thing I would also do to sweeten the deal. If I'm Fickell, if he's really going to take this seriously, like, hey, can we get my boy Jimmy like $2.5 million, come back? I know money doesn't solve all the problems here, but and I know your AD kind of seems like he stabbed you in the back, but hey, let's get you this raise. I would love to have you back.
I don't know. I do a lot of shit for $2.5 million, Mike.
I know, but I think I mentioned to you guys too in the group chat. If there's one thing that does kind of worry me a little, when I say little, it's that if Jimmy does come back as a D coordinator, I'm a little afraid that there might be a little bit of a division in the locker room. Like, all right, Jimmy was just my head coach for literally the last 6-7 games, and now he's just got demoted back to D coordinator, which isn't even that much of a demotion. That's just another conversation, but that's the one little thing I'm worried about. However, I'm trying to win it. If Luke Fickell's like, I'm trying to win a championship, I know this guy can get us there. Maybe at the end of the day, it's like, all right, I need you back. So would love to have you, Jimmy, but just in case you leave us, good luck. Don't go to Nebraska, please. My one exception.
So the last thing I want to say on this is to not basically denounce your fandom if Jim Leonard leaves, followed by, say, Braylon Allen, Nick Herbig, and potentially others. If that happens, it's going to be a bummer watching them not wearing Badgers red and white next year. It'll be a bummer, but listen, this is part of what I was getting at when I said I believe this hire means more about McIntosh than Jim Leonard. If those players follow, say, Braylon Allen and Nick Herbig to be an example, 2 years from now, both of them will be in the NFL, and neither of them will be Badgers anyways.
Mm-hmm.
You know who will still be here is the head coach, assuming he gets 2 years to figure shit out. This is a more long-term situation than worrying about what's going to happen with Braylon Allen, Nick Herbig, etc. Having that coach is more important than having 2 years of two guys and whoever else. It's a harsh reality of the way that college sports is and just sports in general. Mm-hmm. But having that, and I would say it's more important in college than the NFL because the NFL is a little bit more fluid with player movement. But you need to replenish so much, like in such a larger pool of players, and you're looking at teenagers. you're not looking at guys that have been in the NFL for 5-10 years. You're looking at teenagers and finding out who can succeed, and within 3 to 4 years from there, be in the NFL from a much larger player pool. So having that coaching and guys that know what they're doing in these situations, it is more important than retaining some of the guys that are currently here.
I agree.
Absolutely.
All right. What's up, Justin? All right. So
let's talk some basketball.
Yes. Mike, you sticking around for basketball, or?
I think I actually am going to get going, actually. But
all right.
Mike's going to go play basketball.
Give us a 60-second thought on the last week of Badgers games. 3 Badger games. Give us 60 seconds and then go.
Okay. So I would say, overall, game by game, this is going to have to be by committee with any sort of wins with any and all wins that we get this year at the end of the day. But it starts with our big three. You got Big Steve, Chucky, and T-Wall, right?
Yep.
There's glimpses of those three showing up in a game. However, it's also been very inconsistent with them not showing up, whether it's 1, 2, all 3 of them, etc. I mean, the Dayton game, for example, a true freshman got us through that game, 43-42 with the Siegen, hit big shots for us. He's been the leading scorer, I think, in a couple games this year. You see glimpses of T-Wall finally getting it together. And finally, Chucky, he's starting to hit some shots. Last night he hit some too, but he got a little careless, but that's another conversation for another time.
I saw how pissed he got.
Yeah. Point being, I do think at the end of the day, this team has got to be by committee with getting wins. One of the biggest bright spots, something like that does come up in my view, our bench scoring has been 100 times better in comparison to last year. If you recall last year, there might have been 7-8 guys playing, right? We were talking about on previous segments that our bench scoring has been so bad, and Chris Vogt once in a while would have a good game. But other than that, it was pretty non-existent.
I don't think you could count on more than one hand how many times we had double-digit bench points.
Correct. So if there's one call-up that I do like about this team is that if need be, we can go to our bench. However, we just don't know where it's going to come from yet because we easily are playing right now 9-10 guys a game. And if there's one big call-up that I think that we are missing right now, I guess Carter Gilmore can do so much as the backup big man. But I think, in my view, we do not have a legit backup point guard because, I expected Kamari McGee to play a little more this year. He's not. So maybe there's just a little bit of a development curve there, which is fine, whatever. But you see guys like Klesmit and Isaac Lindsey bringing the ball up. You can tell they are not true point guards. That's my opinion.
They're combo guards.
Yep.
You can counter. Anybody can argue with me on that. I just don't think they're true point guards. But that's how that's just the situation we have going on now. So I'm looking forward to maybe Kamari can make a jump this year and contribute. Great. If not, it's got to be by committee somehow, some way. We got to get it done.
Agreed.
But yeah, those are probably the biggest call outs so far this season.
All right. We appreciate you jumping on with us. And, hey, let's see what the Badgers can do now.
Yes, sir. I'm excited. Thanks, fellas. You have a good night.
Right, take care.
I'm Wisconsin, buddy.
All right. So
let's run through some basketball games, bro.
All right. Yes, we got a whole bunch of basketball. 6 basketball games. All right. Let's knock them out. First, give me your power pair and your underrated performer from the Kansas, USC, Wake Forest games.
So before we get into that real quick, I am going to have a point I'm going to make after we get after the Wake Forest game. And I have a somatic change that the Badgers need to make. And they could take a page out of the Bucks book.
Nice. I'm excited for it.
So my UP was Chucky. I'm going to start with my UP because he started this season very poorly. You could tell that he was kind of putting pressure on himself that oh man, they're looking at me as the man, I
think he was trying to be Johnny Davis a little bit.
He was trying to be an All-American. Right. When he turned the corner in the USC game, that's the game that I'm going to think about that, where he turned the corner. You could tell that he went back to being Chucky Hepburn, and I'm okay with that because I like Chucky Hepburn. I like his game. So my two players that I picked Tyler Wall and Connor Esigian. Bruh, that kid is a stud, man. There was a tweet. I don't remember if it was this week or last week, but one of the Badgers beat writers tweeted out Connor Esigian and Gus Yeldon are literally going to be the most hated duo in the Big Ten. And I am fucking here for it, man. Both those kids got swag. Yeah. Both those kids got game along with their swag. Connor already is just taking big time shots and making big time shots. When he develops, and this is the next step in his process, a little bit better of a dribbler where he can create a little bit better off the dribble. He will get stronger too, and that's natural. But when he develops his game to be a little bit better of a ball handler, watch out.
He's going to be pulling dribble pull-ups like shit.
Yeah. This kid's going to be a stud at the college ranks. We might lose him after next year, I won't lie. But Tyler Wall as well. Literally just his game against Kansas, the second half against Kansas, I was just like, yeah, he's on another planet right now. So that man was just – and he missed the alley. And I'm watching with my stepson. He's like, how does he miss that? I'm like, Aiden, did you not just see how much he ran? All the contact he's taking?
And to be straight on with the rim is hard too.
And this guy is giving guts out there, man. Like it's heart, guts, everything that he's got, blood, sweat, everything. He was leaving it all on the floor. And for that reason, I think I'll always love Tyler Wall. So Tyler Wall.
I have some points to get to that specifically when we get into the Kansas game. But I'm going to go – I went with Chucky Hepburn and Tyler Wall. I have the same three players, but for different reasons. So Chucky Hepburn, he struggled against Dayton and Kansas. But versus USC and Wake Forest, he's averaging 20 points, 3 assists, 2.5 rebounds, 2.5 steals, only 1.5 turnovers in those games.
That's bad.
And in those two games, he's 14 for 31 from the field, which is 45.2%, and 9 of 17 on threes in his last two games. That is just shy of 53%.
That's very good.
When was the last time we had a Badger shooting 50% from three?
I mean, Connor did this last week too.
Well, I mean, like in the past, like this is a new Badgers that's actually shooting threes well.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I was gonna say maybe Gosser. Can't think of anybody else. We haven't had a lot of.
I was going to say it sucks to have to think this hard to figure it out.
There hasn't been a lot of super efficient guys, and usually the Badgers. Oh God, the Badgers offense. The previous 10 years is like the slowest pace thing. Like I could start my dinner, and my dinner would be done cooking at the 5-minute mark, and the Badgers would have 12 points.
All right. So the other one I have is Tyler Wall. He averaged in the last week 18 points, 20 of 45, which is 44.4%. 14 of 16 on free throws.
That's good.
87.5% from the free throw line. And 7.7 rebounds, 3.3 assists, and 2 turnovers. The last 3 games, Kansas, USC, Wake Forest, 35, 35, 31. Those are Tyler Wall's minutes.
That's a lot of minutes in basketball in college.
Dude's playing almost the entire game.
Yeah.
So now we can start after I do my let me do my underrated performer. And I have Connor Esigian as my underrated performer, not because his performance was underrated, but because I underrated him.
Yeah, 100%.
When we were coming in, I was, even in the first couple games of the season, I was like, all right, is Jordan Davis going to be the guy who takes this shooting guard position and makes it his? Because he was playing tough. And I give Jordan Davis credit for that, for playing tough, for getting around the basket, cutting to the basket, going to get offensive rebounds. He's still the better defender than Connor Esigian. I will give him that. But I don't see at this point how you can keep Connor Esigian out of the starting lineup for very long.
You can't.
You're exactly. You're going to get to a point where you can't. 13.3 points, 4.3 rebounds, 13 of 27 on field goals, 9 of 18 on threes in the last 3 games.
Yep.
That's another 50% 3-point shooter.
Yep.
On the same team. We have 2 on the same team. All right. If my man Steven Crowell starts knocking down the clutch threes like he was last year, like the Badgers will win some games like the one they lost last night. They'll win some of those games.
And the Kansas game.
And the Kansas game, which they should have won, which is fucking annoying. But
yeah,
let's talk about the Kansas game. Now, it was a slow first half for offense. Both teams came alive in the second half, led by Tyler Wall. Tyler Wall scored the Badgers' last 14 points in second half and overtime.
He was hooping, bro.
He was going crazy.
Yeah, he was.
And you see him flexing, running down the court. Like, just, okay, this is what I said. And even though the Badgers lost this game, is that Tyler Wall wanted that game more than anybody else. Easily.
You
honestly.
Can see the heart. You can see the heart.
He wanted that game more than anybody else on the floor. And he showed it. So Tyler Wall finished with 23 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 steals.
Yeah, he was the best player on the floor that day.
Damn. We had this conversation last week about who we think the Badgers' best player is, and I think Chucky's really, really close to Tyler Wall. He needs just like one more aspect to his game, and one of the things I brought up was consistent 3-point shooting. So like right now, like I think we're almost getting into a fight, but it's not a fight like a fist fight. It's like one of those things where like you get the running back room with the Badgers, and this guy doing something better than you makes you want to push harder. And it just keeps making you want to build on top of it. I'm hoping that's what we get with Chucky Hepburn and Tyler Wall. They keep driving each other to be better. And then you got guys coming along with them. So the other guy that I want to give credit to in this game, because I'm sure you're going to talk about Connor Essegian, I want to give Max Klesmit a bunch of credit for the Kansas game. That game was 45 minutes long. Max Klesmit played 43 minutes. Damn.
Mm-hmm.
He scored 13 points on 4 of 6 shooting, 2 of 3 behind the 3-point line. To have the energy to make shots, playing 43 out of 45 minutes, like, dude, like my heart is tired just thinking about it.
Right.
Like just thinking about it makes my legs hurt. But Tyler Wall and Max Klesmit were definitely 2 of the biggest things that stood out to me from that game, the Kansas game. What stood out to you?
So, because you brought up Max and you brought up Connor, I'll say this. Connor Essegian is going to get the more of the clout or the social media following. He's going to be a social media star because his game is smooth. The jumper is smooth as butter. It's
He'll
super
score
quick.
more points too.
He will. The thing that I'm going to say about Max Klesmit that I appreciate is that man was straight up born from the grit factory.
Oh, yeah.
Straight up out of the grit factory. He will go get a rebound. He will dive on the floor. To me, he's the Badgers version of our boy from the Bucks. Who do you think I'm thinking of? Pat Connaughton. I see a lot of Pat Connaughton qualities.
Can I be real with you?
Who do you think?
I kind of want to say Drew Holiday.
Nope. I knew you were going to be crazy.
Listen. Just listen. He's undersized. So like Drew Holiday has that size that allows him to guard like 1 through 4. Like Klesmit, I would trust 1 through 3.
Okay.
So, but you know the way that he's up and like his switching and his IQ, which is something we talked about last week too. Like I think he means more to the Badgers than Pat Connaughton means to the Bucks, if I'm being honest with you.
The reason I said Pat Connaughton, and you went absolutely insane by saying Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday freaking is a phenomenal passer that nobody talks about.
I will give you that. That's a good
and
point.
He finishes at the rim with both hands on a consistent basis.
I still don't know if he's left or right-handed.
The man is a bucket, is what Drew Holiday is, in my opinion. I will.
He can get there. He doesn't finish with the left, but he gets to the rim. He does.
He does get there. And I was going to say that about Chucky when we get to the, when we start going through all these games, I was going to say, if that man learns how to finish at the rim, like on a consistent basis, like he could be a problem. Like Chucky could be a problem if he like consistently finishes. And like I know his 3-pointer, like I agree with you 100% because we need more than one or two guys hitting threes, and especially a guy that brings up the ball in the new age of basketball. Your point guard almost has to be able to shoot and control the offense. Like that's just how it works. Kind of like with quarterbacks, you have to be able to run quarterback design runs, quarterback powers, and be able to run the ball and throw the ball. That's kind of where the quarterback position is going. And we're going to get some of those in the Wisconsin W pretty goddamn soon, I think. But, yeah, dude. Oh, imagine that behind a couple 300-pounders. Yeah, have fun with that.
We didn't give Jack Nelson credit for getting way out ahead of some of the runs.
We do. He was good. I actually have some stuff when we get to the Packers show about some linemen.
I bet you do.
I have some shout outs to give out.
But
in this Kansas game, it started a trend that I did not like, and that's the offensive rebounds we gave up. Obviously, we lost because of an offensive rebound, but giving up 14 offensive rebounds to Kansas, God. I will say our assist-to-turnover ratio versus what we gave up was actually pretty goddamn good this run
I
of
want to
games.
say something about the assists. The Badgers don't turn the ball over ever, but the Badgers made 24 made field goals, 10 assists.
Yep.
Steven Crowell was the leading assist guy for the Badgers with 3.
That's
like I get that the Wall had a lot of isolation in the second half, but still 24 made field goals and 10 assists.
Yeah, that's a great ratio. I agree with you on that. I loved our assist to turnover ratio, and you brought up the field goals. That's a great thing. The only last thing I got is Tyler Wall announced that he is a grown man.
I just want to throw out a Sejan's field goals to finish 6 of 12, 17 points, and 5 rebounds. Like he mixes it up in the rebounding a little bit. Yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say about that Kansas game?
No, we showed that we could play with the big dogs. I'll say that.
That's very valid. I really thought the Badgers, I'm not gonna lie, I thought the Badgers were going to be ranked this week.
So did I. But
after beating USC and losing by 1 to Kansas in overtime on a buzzer beater in a game they technically should have won in regulation.
Yeah, let's not get into that though, because that'll just make us both angry.
I know. I'm just throwing it out there, but I mean, like, for those to be the Badgers' games in the last week, and they beat number 24 Dayton on Wednesday. I really thought the Badgers were going to be like 24th.
They'll get there.
They will, and I know, like, I'm going to keep saying this. Like, I think the Badgers are going to get there, and they're going to get swiftly knocked back out once they start getting into some really tough Big Ten games. But I do think that Kansas game gave me a little more confidence that they'll be able to win some of those games. So maybe they'll exceed my win production or my win total of 19 or 20. So let's go into the USC game. What did you see from the third place game on that?
USC is an interesting team. They have some shooters. They have some athletes. But we forced more turnovers than gave up assists to USC, who had 14 turnovers and 12 assists. Did you look at dude in Dayton? Because I wrote it down after we did the show last week, so I wanted to make sure I had everything. They had 17 turnovers and 6 assists. Yeah.
No wonder they only scored 42 points. Damn.
Right. Listen to this about Dayton, just real quick. They made 16 shots. They had more turnovers than field goals made. We fucked them up, dude.
Oh my God. I bet you they were doing freaking suicide just all day, every day for the next 4 days. Right? Holy shit. That's yikes.
The 2 things I wanted to say. First of all, I said this before. This is the game that Chucky turned the corner.
Yep.
We gave up double-digit offensive rebounds again. Don't like that trend. We forced more turnovers than gave up assists. Love that. And we only gave up 6 free throw attempts. So defending without fouling.
That's a really good point.
I talked about the Badgers can take something from the Bucks. The Bucks can take something from the Badgers. One of the things I'm going to talk about with the Bucks is learning to defend without fouling because Jesus goddamn Christ. But after we get to the Wake Forest, I will make my point what the Badgers can take from the Bucks. But those are my three things that I'm taking away from this.
If I had to see one more damn phantom whistle in that Bucks Mavericks game, I was gonna lose my shit.
That's the superstar effect of the NBA, though.
Spencer Dinwiddie does not get the superstar effect. He's dribbling at half court. Wesley Matthews reaches out towards him, doesn't even touch him, but gets a foul call, and then he gets a take foul for it. Stop. All right. So Badgers defense just suffocating early in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Chucky got off to a good start. It was good to see him seeing the ball go in. So Ellis, USC's best player, comes out with fouls at 4:41. USC's up 30-24. Jordan Davis scores 5 straight points. The Badgers go on a 7-0 run in a minute and 30 seconds. So a minute and 30 seconds, USC goes from up 6 to down 1. The Badgers finish the half on a 12-4 run. Second half, bro, Tyler Wall hit a Euro step, and I fucking lost it. The fact that Tyler Wall broke out a Euro step, I was done. I'm done. Tyler Wall's a G. I love Tyler Wall. So,
The beast.
all right, I love Tyler Wall. Tyler Wall finished with 14 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists. Connor Segan, 12 more points, 4 more rebounds. Now, we mentioned Tyler Wall is good on defense. Connor Segan is going to need to improve on defense. Now, I wrote down some things that I think he can do to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's going to need to get stronger, which will take some time, but he'll get there. What I want to see from Connor Segan is I want to see him get lower.
Okay.
Get lower on defense. It seemed like a lot of times, especially when he was on the weak side, which is obviously, a little bit different, but seeing him standing straight-legged, almost looking stiff sometimes.
Yeah.
So I want to see him lower, do the drill where a coach puts the tennis balls behind your knees and you got to stay low. You stand up and you drop tennis balls and you got to run. Something like that. Keep Connor Segan low. Obviously, he's not a big guy, but being in that low athletic stance to allow him to stay in front of guys, I think that's something that Connor Segan could do to potentially help his defense. So that was one other thing that stood out to me from the USC game. So is there anything else you want to see or anything else you want to say about the USC game?
I'll say that they started to shoot a little bit better, which was definitely a sight for sore eyes. So if they can couple their defense with a higher shooting percentage, I think that's something that will lead to more wins for sure.
That's a good point. All right, let's talk about Wake Forest, last night's game.
This game was frustrating because Chucky was cooking and so was the guy he was guarding. That sucked. We gave up 9 offensive rebounds. So I added the Dayton game in there because it was all in one tournament. So I added the 4 games together of offensive rebounds. They gave up 44 offensive rebounds in 4 games. That hurts. We grabbed 29 offensive rebounds. Or we grabbed 29 offensive rebounds. So that disparity right there, the thing that I've been waiting to say, the Badgers, for a team that doesn't shoot the best percentage and doesn't turn the ball over, I think, they usually look for one shot, and it's a grind to play against the Badgers. The thing that they could take away from the Bucks is attacking the offensive boards, I think. I know that their defense –
That's a relatively new thing for the Bucks, too. That's something they really started emphasizing just this season.
It is, and that's something that, me and you have mentioned, and we love it because, a team that with as many athletes as the Bucks, as many shooters as the Bucks, getting that 2 for $1, as, Hoopers say, that's definitely something that could be big in the end. And we've lost a couple close games this week, games that I think that, if one player or 2 plays changes, we could definitely win. That could all change by attacking the offensive rebounds and putting that pressure on them.
Let me throw something else into that. Let me add something to that.
What's that?
So this applies for the Bucks and the Badgers. The Bucks a little bit more because of how good they are defensively, which we're going to talk about. The Badgers have guys that can play good defense, the Badgers are a good defensive team. So you can get into some 4-on-3 situations and still feel good about, not giving up a wide open layup.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can, I'm not saying you want to put yourself in disadvantageous situations, but like I think the Badgers can afford to with their defense.
I agree.
I saw I don't remember which game it was exactly, but Carter Gilmore had a 2-on-1. He was back on defense and he got a stop by himself.
Mm-hmm. That is one of the reasons that I think we should attack the old boards more is because of our defensive principles. I think just forcing the issue every once in a while, being the attacker instead of being attacked, is definitely a mindset that all Wisconsin teams could take into consideration because too many times we're on the defensive, in this state with our sports teams. So the one team that is 100%, we're going to come at you. Who is it? It's the Bucks.
It's the Bucks.
And who is the best team in this state? It's the Bucks.
It's the Bucks.
So if you guys want to learn from the Bucks, you guys can be offensive and be defensive. I understand players matter, but at the end of the day, the Badgers get enough talent. I believe this team has enough talent, enough shooting. We definitely have enough defense. So say we get Connor on a three-pointer, and this for being a shooter. You shoot it, and you're like, man, I went a little short. You get that second opportunity, how that motherfucker felt coming off your hands, right?
I brought it up. I gave you the exact stat. That on 3-point misses, a second shot off of a missed three is 52%.
Yeah, man, that 2 for $1 is a real thing. It's a real thing.
Crazy.
It is.
And it's 52% on a second chance on the same possession. Just because shooters shoot. These guys are shooting 500 to 1,000 shots every day. If a guy shoots his shot, he knows what's going to be off.
Yep.
It's he knows. He's I leaned this way a little bit, or I didn't flick my wrist when I had my follow through, or whatever it is. Guys know what it is.
And a lot of times, especially in college, guys will leak out and leave their guy. That guy could be wide open for a three. Feet set, feet under him, elbow in. I mean, shit. I just think a couple more opportunities for Wisconsin could really, really tilt this season another way.
I wrote down rebounding for the Wake Forest game as well because the Badgers were all rebounded 33-23. Yeah, that's gross. And this is something super nitpicky just because he's been so good for the Badgers this year. But I'd like to see Tyler Wall take a little more consistent ownership on rebounding. Mm-hmm. So he's averaging 7 rebounds a game this year, but he's got 3 games this season where he's got 5 or less. The Badgers as a team have been out-rebounded in 2 of those 3. The one that they weren't was South Dakota State. So I had that. Appleby from Wake Forest dude went crazy. Dude made 11 out of 16 field goals.
Yeah, he was balling, man. Give credit where it's due, right?
Dude, when guys are hitting the between the leg dribble, shoot and kind of fade off to the side, but there's a super high arc on it and that shit's going in,
yeah.
Sorry, dude's cooking.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. And you never know when that night's gonna be. But it could be against you. It is what it is.
And it sucks because I feel like Trae Young has those games against the Bucks all the time.
God. That's because Trae Young's one of those guys that he knows that people are watching him against the Bucks because the Bucks are one of the best teams in the league. So he's I got to turn up for this game.
Well,
right?
Especially when it's Drew Holiday defending point guards and stuff like that.
Right. And you know what? At the end of the day, the Bucks end up winning more games. So go ahead and shoot and make as many shots as you want, Trae Young. So
I'll let Trae Young score 40 every time if it means the Bucks win. I don't give a shit. If 100%. You're shooting from the logo, go ahead. I will let you shoot from the logo all day.
Mm-hmm.
That is the lowest percentage shot you're going to shoot.
Yeah, if it goes in, well, whatever. Shoot another one because that one's not going in. You're not making back to back.
I will go ahead and let you shoot from a spot that you shoot 30% from.
Agreed.
All right. The other thing, Chucky Hepburn, he played a great game. He really did. He set a career high with 3s, with 6. He did not finish well. The very last percentage, the last possession, don't try to put the game in the ref's hands. Just don't. especially when the refs were questionable all night to begin with. But even still, even if the refs are on your side, don't put the game in the refs' hands. Put it in your hands. He took that awkward try to draw a foul 3 from just inside half court with about 5 seconds left on the clock. You mentioned the Badgers have some better shooters this year. I threw out the name Steven Crowell, who's hit clutch threes, a whole bunch of them last season. Connor Segan is hitting tons of threes this season. Like Tyler Wall's not a trusted guy from 3, but Tyler Wall's a guy that wants to win. So, I mean, if it's a crunch time situation and you're talking about Chucky Hepburn throwing up a shot from 35 feet or, Tyler Wall wide open, like, I'll take the Tyler Wall shot just because it's a better shot. Bottom line, there's 5 seconds left on the clock when you cross half court. That's enough time to get a good shot.
I would have liked to see Crowell screen for Chucky and then immediately go screen for Connor. And then you have 3 options right there off those back-to-back screens of guys that I trust taking that shot. Even though Crowell isn't making many threes so far this year, but he is capable, like you said. So I would have liked something like that, isolation on the side that they shoot the better percentage on, make it happen that way. I would have liked to see that, but you hope that they just learn from this experience. That's all you can do.
Yeah. Going to kind of end this with a bummer stat, but Wisconsin hasn't beat Wake Forest since 2005.
That's weird.
It's exactly 17 years from last night. It was November 29th, 2005. Oddly enough, those 17 years, it's only been 4 games that those matchups have accounted for.
That makes sense.
Basically, we play Wake Forest once every 4 years and haven't beaten them since 05.
It is what it is. I'm not too upset about it. It's a November basketball game.
It's just one of those things. Like,
yeah. That's all right.
All right. So, Badgers have 2 games between now and next Wednesday. They play Marquette on Saturday, who just beat the shit out of Baylor last night.
They did.
They were up by 31 at one point. This is unranked Marquette against number 6 Baylor, just beating the hell out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Badgers play Maryland on Tuesday. So going forward, what are you looking for from the Badgers? And then give me a record prediction.
Oh, if they lose to Marquette, I'm going to be upset. I want to say in our friends group, I was ahead of everybody because I've always hated Marquette. I was ahead. I know you still don't, but I was ahead of everybody, and everybody followed me. So fuck you, Marquette. You did play very, very good last night, though. I was watching that game for a while, and they were destroying. The Badgers are gonna have to beat the press. And Marquette is very athletic. I'm gonna say they're gonna go 1-1. I do think that they probably lose to Marquette, which is gonna suck. But I want to see consistency from our big 3, like Mikey said. And I hate to say this, I need Steven Crowell to be a little tougher inside. Like you talked about rebounding, and I agree with Tyler Wall. Tyler Wall is a very capable rebounder. He can go in there. I need Steven Crowell to be a fucking 7-footer. Okay? I need him to get in there and go grab the goddamn ball when I need a rebound.
And you know what happened at those times last season when we needed that?
Yeah.
Chris Vogt got put in.
That's true.
We don't have that. So Steven Crowell, and this was something I brought up in the primer, is that I was hoping to see a stronger version of Steven Crowell. I've seen like 3 flashes of it this season where he's actually like backed a couple guys down and gotten some jump hooks from really close to the rim. But I can tell you on one hand, that's probably about the number of times that I've seen it. So I want to see that strength from Steven Crowell because, like I said, I wanted to see him become the next in the line of good Wisconsin big men.
Agreed. He has the ability, but he's holding himself back. Go get it, bro. Go get it.
Yeah. Assert yourself. Play with your chest.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So I'm also going to say 1-1. We'll see. The Badgers have the capability to win both of these games.
Yep.
And I think we're going to be in a situation where probably outside of maybe, I don't know, Illinois, like the Badgers are going to have the capability to win every single game they play this season.
I mean, Purdue is pretty good this year.
I'll give you Purdue because, yeah, Edie's a monster.
And they
He's like a real monster.
Yeah, they were destroying Gonzaga.
If you go and rewatch Space Jam, like Edie is the blue monster.
The dumb one.
Tell me he doesn't look like that though.
A little bit.
Look me in the face and tell me he doesn't look like the blue monster.
Poor Sean Bradley. Poor Sean Bradley.
And you got to be in a movie, so you got that. Is there
True.
anything else you want to say about the Badgers? And we'll get into the Bucks.
Nope, I'm ready.
All right, give me your power pair and your underrated performer from the Bucks.
All right. So my power pair, I mean, the first guy, he's the best.
Any guesses? Anybody? Bueller? Anybody?
Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, 36, 38, 30. Those are his points. The man is on a hot streak again. If it was up to me, and people are starting to talk a lot about Steph for the MVP, and obviously a lot of people are talking Luka. I mean, Steph is second in points per game. I'll just leave it at that. But I don't know why people just go right over Giannis. I'm like, I was listening.
Still having Tatum and Luke or Tatum, Jokic, Embiid, any of those guys above Giannis right now is just wrong.
Yeah, just stop. The only guy I will listen to about is Luka because he literally is the Dallas Mavericks. Right.
Luka is number one for me right now.
Bro, I was watching that Warriors and Mavericks game last night talking about Curry and Luka. Dude, Luka was dropping some crazy dimes, except the Mavericks were not making them. So anyways, dude, he threw like a behind the back pass to Tim Hardaway, and Hardaway had nobody on him, dude. And Luka was getting double teamed. I was like, boy, you better make this shit. I bench your ass so fucking fast, dog. Dude, it was right here. I was like, bro, that's right in the shooter's pocket. How the fuck do you not make that? But anyways, Tim Hardaway Jr. is kind of a bum in my opinion. He plays hard, but
I used to like him a little bit more, but he's regressing.
Yeah, ever since Giannis put his dick print on his forehead, it's kind of been downhill for him. I'll say that. Sorry, had to go there. I have that photo. Giannis averaged 34.6.
Terrible. Oh my god, I'm going to hell.
10.3 and 5.6 assists. He shot 39 of 66 for 56%. He was a plus 36 in 3 games for the plus minus. Yeah. My next guy is Brook Lopez. I don't know what else we can say about this guy. This guy's just a monster.
There's one more thing you can say about him.
I will. 13.6 points. Oh yeah, it's a legendary photo, Justin. 5 rebounds. He averages over 3.5 blocks in these games. He had a game where he had 6 fucking blocks, and he also added in 2 steals. He was 16 of 26. That's 62% on field goals. 7 of 12 on threes. That is a 58% clip, and he was a plus 13 in these 3 games. So, the one thing I'm going to say about Brook, this man needs to be in the talks for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yes, he does.
Let's just say what it is, man. He is controlling everything. And if his teammates' endorsement isn't enough, I don't know what it is. But every interview you do with a player on the Bucks, this includes Giannis, they all talk about funneling the offensive player to Brook. Funnel it to Brook. Funnel it to Brook. And for Brook to understand that and still block their shots is amazing to me. And he still doesn't get enough credit for how good of a fucking box out player he is.
Dude,
he is phenomenal.
Oh my god, it made me mad because I saw somebody complain that he's big and doesn't get a lot of rebounds. It's like, do you not understand that Brook Lopez understands his role better than you could ever understand how basketball is played?
Let's see.
I explained this. Go ahead. I'm about to go on a rant, so you say your stuff first.
So let's think of it this way. Brook can get the rebound and throw it to Giannis, which gives the defense an extra second to, collect themselves. Or he could just be like, Here, Giannis, you just take it and get to the other side in 2 dribbles. It's pretty simple. 2 + 2 always equals 4. Just gonna say that.
Except in this situation, 1 + 1 = 3 because you save 2 seconds every time Giannis grabs the ball instead of Brook grabbing it and giving it to Giannis.
Ditto.
You save time by your ball handler catching a rebound and going versus your big man catching a rebound and outletting.
Agreed.
That's such a simple thing to understand. I explained it last season that Brook Lopez boxes out. Not only does it keep their opponent from getting a rebound, your opponent's biggest guy from getting rebounds, but it also helps jumpstart your transition offense. Brook isn't out here trying to get rebounds. Brook's out here trying to make everybody else's jobs easier and shoot threes.
I mean, he can get rebounds. That's not an issue. I've seen Brook mix it up and go get a goddamn board.
Right. I mean, he's an Easter Island man, but so he can, if he wants to move people, he will.
Hey, he'll move them.
Last thing on Brook Lopez is, you mentioned all the guys saying, we funnel to Brook. The other thing I hear a lot of guys say is, playing defense on the perimeter or, just playing defense in general. A lot of guys say it's a peace of mind knowing that you have Brook back there.
Yeah.
Is what a lot of the guys say. So that's the last thing I want to say on Brook. My power pair for the Bucks is obviously Giannis. He was actually named Eastern Conference Player of the Week. I'm surprised you didn't throw that out there.
I had to leave something for you. I said all
that. I suppose. Giannis has also tied his career streak of 30-plus points and 55% plus field goal shooting 4 games in a row now. So I wanted to throw that out there. My second one is Bobby Portis because I talked about him last week, the week before. Like, I wanted to see him start getting his efficiency numbers back up. He had a couple rough shooting games, and now he's getting better with that. Just under 13 points a game and 10 rebounds a game. Giannis and Bobby Portis are tied for second in the NBA in double-doubles. They both have 11. They're tied for second with like 6 other guys. But the difference is Bobby Portis is 123rd in minutes played per game. Tied for second in double-doubles. 123rd in minutes.
That man would be averaging like 15 rebounds a game if he was a starter.
He'd be all right. I'm going to say it like this. If he was playing, say, 32-ish minutes a game, he'd be Kevin Garnett without the defense.
I could see that. A little midi, tough. I can see that.
He'd be like 21 and 15.
Yeah, I'm with that. That's monster.
That's from like your 6th man.
Bro, and God, Celtics fans are just exhausting. They really think they have the deepest team in the league. Do they understand that Bobby?
They might. All right, listen, them currently healthy, the Bucks currently not healthy, might have the deepest team in the league. When January rolls around, it's not even close.
No. I agree.
Not even close.
The Bucks are about to fuck some shit up.
The fact that the Bucks currently can still go like 9 deep on a regular basis and get contributions out of George Hill and Serge Ibaka and once in a while Jordan Nwora and Marjan Beauchamp as a rookie, like, cool. Oh yeah, by the way, that team has I'm just going to throw this out here now. The Bucks have 4 guys in the top 10 in defensive win shares. Giannis is number 1. Drew is number 2. Grayson Allen is number 5. Brook Lopez is number 7. This is nasty. The Bucks have 5 in the top 12 in defensive rating.
Oh.
Giannis is number 1. Brook is number 4. And then Drew Holiday, Javon Carter, and Bobby Portis are all in the top 12 of defensive rating.
Man. Dude, I cannot wait for Christmas Day to shut up the Boston fans. Ugh.
Javon Carter is my underrated performer. He only scored 2 points against Chicago, but he scored 18 versus Cleveland and was Tim loves that. He scored 18 against Cleveland. He was the Bucks' second leading scorer in that game. And then 14 against Dallas, including some cold-blooded shots. He hit some nasty shots in that game. End of the game, there's like 2 minutes and 14 seconds left, I think. And he's got Davis Bertans like running in circles. Like he caught the ball on the three-point line. He dribbled towards the left with his right hand, did a single hand crossover, got to like the elbow, dribbled behind his back, stepped back, and hit a mid-range jump shot.
Yeah,
Dude
he's gross.
Spinning in circles. He didn't know where Javon Carter was. Then he gets a steal. This was in the first quarter. He gets a steal. I think it might have been off of Luka, actually, because Luka had 4 turnovers in the early goings in the Dallas game. Gets a steal. 20 seconds on the shot clock. Runs up, pulls a 3 from the top of the key in straight cash.
Yeah, he's falling in love with that pull-up 3.
Oh, that's Javon Carter. That's like our 4th or 5th option in the starting lineup.
Yeah, usually Chris is the guy that does that on this team. But if we can have 2 guys with that ability, and then you have Giannis who can just go in against your entire team and dunk on you,
yeah,
that's terrifying.
And Drew Holiday and his unstoppable step back.
Right, and then you get into the secondary breaks with Brooke and Bobby. Good God,
Bobby,
this team is the deepest in the league. It's not close. I'm sorry.
It's really not.
It's not.
On the Chris Middleton front, he might be back as early as Friday against the Lakers, which would be cool. But let's start with the Bucks and the Bulls. Let's get this ugly game out of the way. 30 fundamental failure points in this game. 17 points off turnovers is the worst of it. Only 7 second chance points and 6 missed free throws. Wesley Matthews was back for this game. He was doing good on defense early, not so much late. DeMar DeRozan kind of took this game over, but Brook Lopez had 11 points in the first quarter, 16 points in the first half. The Bucks basically bet on the Bulls' weakness for this game, was what it came down to, which is 3-point shooting. The Bulls overcame it. You give credit to them. The Bulls were 29th in 3-point attempts per game at 29.3. They took 42 threes in this game.
They did.
They were 13th in percentage at 36.6% as a team, and they made 42.9%.
Yep.
So I give credit to the Bulls for doing what they don't do well. The other thing that stood out to me from this game was the Bucks did well on Zach LaVine. I don't know what it is. He can't have good games against the Bucks. It feels like.
But to counter that, DeRozan does play good against us.
Yes, except for in the playoffs.
He had the one game, and that's kind of what I went back to when I looked at this. I was like, this was the one loss in the playoffs.
That's the one, yeah.
It is. And it took them hitting 18 fucking three-pointers for that to happen.
Yeah. Zach LaVine made 3 out of 11 3-point attempts.
Yikes.
He was 6 for 17 on the night. He scored 18 points on 17 shots.
All right, and for all the people that love Allen Iverson, welcome to the stat line.
Oh,
he crossed a guy over. Ooh, shut up.
Listen to this.
Allen Iverson's overrated.
Zach LaVine defended by Javon Carter, 1 for 7.
Bro, you might have to make a new meme. Javon Carter and Grayson Allen.
If Javon Carter scored more points in this game, I would.
No, we could say one's the offense, one's the defense.
That's fair. I'll give you that. The offensive guy in this game was Giannis. I mean, 36 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists. The turnovers are where it gets Giannis. Giannis had 8 turnovers.
Yeah. Bucks had a lot of turnovers.
Brook Lopez had 20 and 7. Drew Holiday had 9 points, 14 points, 11 assists. Only took 6 shots. Drew Holiday needs more shots.
I agree.
Even when Chris comes back, he needs to shoot more than 6 shots a game.
I agree.
Grayson Allen scored 13 points, and then George Hill added 10. What stood out to you from the Bulls game?
So I already gave part of my answer. It took 18 3-pointers to win this game. So a couple plays that I liked, or that I saw that really had a big impact on this game. First of all, Giannis Mean Mug. Giannis, you don't not like Giannis Mean Mugs, right? It started with a pick and roll with Drew, and Drew does this a lot actually, where he rejects the screen, he goes the opposite way, and it kind of puts the big man guarding Giannis in a weird position. And because of that, he's playing so far up to kind of extend that. They were playing extended defense to push Drew out to take away our timing. Drew, a very smart player, and like I said, a great passer, bounces a pocket pass to Giannis, and after that, it's fucking showtime, right? He two-hand slams, looks like Shaquille O'Neal, and I'm just like, goddamn, right? It's one of those plays. Play 2 was the Bulls made 3 straight threes to win. It took 3 straight hero ball shots to win this game. 2 of them by White, 1 by Vucevic. That's not going to happen all the time. I saw a lot of Bucks fans upset after this game. We can't beat the Bulls, whatever. It is what it is. It took some amazing shit for them to win a game. The first win in Milwaukee since 2017. A lot of shit has happened since 2017, man. I mean, Jesus.
Back when it was the Bradley Center.
Yeah, man. I mean, in the world in general, a lot of shit's changed in 2017. But again, the Bulls made 18 threes. We had 20 turnovers. You add those 2 things together, you're not winning a lot of basketball games like that, right?
God, I hate that turnovers. That's like, that's the biggest thorn in my side about the Bucks. They turn the ball over so much.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to point out this week was fouls, and the Bulls had 20 fouls. The Bucks had 17. I will have a stat for fouls per game for the Bucks and per game when we get to the Mavericks game. But yeah, making shots and then turning the ball over and not capitalizing, that'll definitely hurt you no matter who you are.
All right. Bucks, Cavs. Now, listen to this. How many times, and I get that not every Wisconsin sports fan watches our show, and they should, because we've said this shit, it feels like 1,000 times. Stop making posts complaining about the result of a game before the game is over.
If you didn't learn that in the Boston series, you got another thing coming. That's all I'm going to say.
Dude, how many times did the Brewers do it this year? The
Right.
Bucks literally did it to Brooklyn like a month ago.
Yeah.
They were down 15 at halftime. They're down 11 at halftime to Cleveland. This is the second straight matchup with Cleveland that they scored 60 in the first half and were held to, 28 total in third quarters. Total. In 2 third quarters, Cleveland has scored 28 points against the Bucks.
Eek.
Mike Budenholzer has their number.
Yes, he does.
Oh, this game revolved around the third quarter. The Bucks went from down 11 to up 14.
Think about that.
Drew scored 5 of his 9 points in the third quarter in the first minute and a half.
Jeez.
He scored. Giannis scored 11 in the third quarter. Brook Lopez hit the 2 threes that he made in this game in the third quarter. And Bobby Portis scored half of his 14 in the third quarter. The other thing that stood out to me from this game, Giannis was 10 of 14 on free throws. So the Bucks as a team missed 7 free throws, allowed 19 points off turnovers, which is gross, and 14 second chance points, which is kind of a lot, for a total of 40 fundamental failure points. And they still won pretty handily. So, it goes to show that it's not always, a perfect correlation between playing fundamental basketball and winning. Sometimes you just go smack team in the mouth and just dominate. The difference when I mentioned fundamentals, they allowed 10 offensive rebounds. 13 turnovers isn't awful, but not getting back on defense is awful. True. That's where they get, 19 points off of 13 turnovers. The difference was the shooting. So the Bucks were 42 of 83. That's 50.6%. 15 to 32 from the 3-point line. That's 46.9%. Giannis finished with 38, 9 and 6, 2 blocks. Javon Carter, as I mentioned, was the second leading scorer with 18 points. Brook Lopez, 6 blocks and made all 3 of his shots, including 2 threes. And then Bobby Portis had 14, 8, and 4 assists. Pretty much, I don't know what it is. I don't know if Mike Budenholzer is a wizard when it comes to playing Cleveland, but they have not done well against the Bucks in the second half. So what stood out to you from the Bucks in Cleveland?
I'll tell you this. Cleveland does not have an enforcer inside that can handle what the Bucks have to throw at you inside. And we don't even have Chris Middleton yet. And Chris Middleton can get a lot of paint points from time to time.
Yeah, he's gotten better at that in the last 2 years. I'm glad you brought that up.
He definitely is getting – Chris is definitely getting better all around. He's definitely better at finishing. He's getting better at finishing with the left too. Thank you, Drew Holiday.
Right?
The 2 plays I wanted to talk about, fucking Giannis half-court alley. Like, what? Dude, an and one half-court alley. Dude, that is shit that we used to do in NBA Jam. He's a real human. That is uncalled for. And then he looked at him like, yeah, little dude. Like, come on. The only person in the league that's allowed to do you're too small is Giannis, because he could literally make every human look too small. I'm just going to say that.
That's fair.
And then the second play, you brought it up. Brook had 6 blocks. And the thing about that is, and I know you're going to bring this stat up, that's like a normal for him almost now. That is ridiculous. What is going on in Milwaukee? I don't know. He hit the fountain of youth or something, but holy cow. And you are 100% correct. I was going to say the same thing. The field goal shooting, I feel like the Bucks got some more quality shots. And obviously they finished them. So the third quarter was just insane. Giannis in one stretch he got that half-court alley. He did a nasty Euro step dunk. And then this motherfucker walks into a 3 and just decides to make it. Like, tell me you're the best player without telling me you're the best player. You could have put those clips together in probably about a 45-second clip of just, okay, he dunked it. Okay, he dunked it. Okay, he made a 3. And the crowd is into it. And now you pissed off the best player in the world. Yeah, he's feeling himself. I mean, Jesus.
I'm pulling it up for the Brook Lopez thing that you mentioned from this.
Dude.
I wanted to have the exact numbers.
I am still getting chills after talking about Giannis, Euro step, facial dunk, and then pulls up for a 3. Like, who do you think you are?
You know who he is.
Oh my gosh. I always think of the Pete Weber video. You ever seen it? The bowler? It happened like 12. He goes, who do you think you are? I am. Whenever I see Giannis just like flex and mean mug after he like does a play, I'm like, yeah, he's thinking of that Pete Weber video for sure.
I'm with that. So I brought it up. Brook Lopez, his last 4 games. Shoot, I had it. I lost it.
Well, I have the last 3 games. If you get the game before.
I had it and I lost it. All right. Give me the last 3. I'll find the other
one. He had 1 block, 6 blocks, 4 blocks. I think here. I can get it up real quick.
5. He went 5, 1, 6, 4. 20 blocks in his last 4 games.
That's illegal.
I wrote it in an article from the takeaways from this game. And what I wrote was that Brook Lopez is roaming the paint like King Kong swatting down airplanes.
Dude, he really is, though. It really is, though. It's
He's just going around in circles and just swatting them all down.
Jeez. This guy.
All right. Let's talk Bucks and Mavericks.
Oh, Bucks Mavs. So the first play I want to talk about is a little bit of X's and O's kind of deal. So we all talk about the Chris and Giannis pick and roll. Clearly the best player in the Bucks playbook. Like, all right, you're our best score with the ball in your hands. You can score in a million ways. And Giannis, you just get the ball and you score in the entire team, including the bench and the assistant coaches. I I would like to throw out that Drew Holiday and Brook could be 1B to that 1A. It doesn't get talked about enough. Obviously, Drew isn't as consistent, but he could finish at the rim. He could when he's going and he's making his mid range. Drew Holiday is very hard to stop. Obviously, he has that step back that he can come off a good screen from Brook. And
oh my God, his step
Drew throws good lobs to Brook, man.
He does.
I don't know what it is. Drew, he knows that Brook is going to take his 1.5-inch vertical, and he's just going to have his big giant hands right there, and Brook's just going to go boop. Yep. And it seems to work a lot. So I really wanted to talk about that. And then obviously the story of this game. I mean, what was it? You tell me. What was
one? To me, it was the MVPs head to head. That was the story for me.
Okay, well, that was actually a good point. That was the obvious answer. The thing that became the story of the game was Grayson Allen starting 7 of 7 from 3.
You want to know something nasty about that?
Tell me.
That's tied for the most makes in a half without a miss in the last 25 years.
That is insane. Grayson Allen.
That dude's gonna be our 6th man in less than a week. That's a perfect tie-in. Are you done with Grayson Allen? Because I'm gonna say something about him.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So I actually just wrote this up today too. I think the Bucks can use Grayson Allen the way that they would have intended to use Jordan Clarkson if they traded for him.
Huh.
It's kind of bold, but stick with me. You look at usage percentage. Jordan Clarkson has the ball in his hands constantly. His usage percentage is over 25%. Grayson Allen is 10th on the Bucks in usage percentage, under 15%.
Wow.
Now, you look at their per 36 numbers, like Grayson Allen is actually a better field goal shooter, three-point shooter, and free throw shooter than Jordan Clarkson this season. And that's before you get to the fact that Jordan Clarkson is a defensive liability, and Grayson Allen's actually been pretty decent this year defensively.
Mm-hmm.
So listen to these numbers from Grayson Allen. Catch and shoot 3-point percentage, 49.2%.
Okay. I'm with you. I'm locked in right now.
His effective field goal percentage on catch and shoots, 73.8%.
That's a very high number.
Oh.
Yeah.
On catch and shoots, he shoots 47.1% from the corners and 44.4% from above the break.
Jeez.
Just, bro, like the Bucks, you mentioned they run a lot of pick and roll. A lot of that is then the other two guys standing on the opposite 3-point line and then one guy in the dunker area.
Mm-hmm.
Get those two guys, whether it be, say Drew and Giannis are running the pick and roll. You got Pat in the dunker area and Brook and Grayson on the 3-point line. Have Brook go set a screen for Grayson Allen coming off towards where Drew is taking the pick from Giannis from the opposite elbow extended. That way, as Drew is driving towards the middle of the floor, he's got Grayson Allen following right behind him, potentially wide open for a 3. Because in this Dallas game, Grayson Allen hit some deep threes.
Yes, he did.
So that was something that stood out to me. Like, let's toss Grayson Allen out there as if he's Jordan Clarkson.
Okay, I'm on board with it. I mean, I think Grayson's been really, really good, and a lot of Bucks fans talking maybe he just upped his trade value. I don't know. Maybe we just see what we got. We hold on to that value. We don't have to trade him away. I mean,
he's on a pretty team-friendly deal. He's only making $8.5 million this year and next year. And
he's been on the team, so he understands the offense. He understands the defense. I mean, his second year in the system. So, I mean, why not? Let's just keep him.
At this point, I'm holding him.
Yeah, I agree.
He's staying here. The other thing with this game is overall, I think the Bucks did a good job on Luka.
Yeah.
Dude's averaging like 33 points a game. And yes, he was 10 of 20 for 27 points and 12 assists.
Yeah.
But Luka is like far and away the leader in usage percentage. Like him and Giannis are both really high up there, but Luka has the ball in his hands constantly.
Yeah.
There was no point in this game that Luka looked comfortable.
I agree.
And the other thing I will say with this is that at no point, even though this game was really like the Bucks would pull away and then Dallas would come back and the Bucks would pull away and then Dallas would come back, at no point did I feel that Luka Doncic was in control of this game.
No, I agree with that.
So that's what stood out to me about the Bucks, containing Luka. Like you're not stopping Luka Doncic. Like the dude's going to get his. So holding him under his season average. And like I said, his impact on the game didn't feel that strong to me. And that I think is almost more important than just saying, we need to hold Luka to, under this percentage or we're going to lose. Like just limit his impact on the game, even though he had 12 assists because dudes were hitting their threes. But you saw late third quarter, the Bucks started to pull away. Mm-hmm. So that was the other thing that stood out to me. The Bucks only missed 4 free throws in this game. Mm-hmm. But 15 second chance points for Dallas and 17 points off turnovers. Got to box out. You got to rotate on defense better was something that stood out to me from this game. And then you got to get the turnovers down. It's gotta get down on turnovers. That's 36 fundamental failure points. It's not egregious by any means, but it just needs to be better. We're still in the first quarter of the season, so it's going to get better, but it needs to start getting better. Giannis finished 30 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists in 29 minutes. Dude scored 30 points in 29 minutes.
Yeah.
Grayson Allen finished with 25 and 5 assists and 2 steals. Brook Lopez finished with 13 points, 4 blocks. Bobby Portis, Mr. Double-Double, 15 and 10. Now, I want to throw this out here too. George Hill played good defense on Spencer Dinwiddie and Luka Doncic. He did. I want to give him credit for that because even to this day, people still are not giving George Hill credit, even though we're 19 games into the season. They're still complaining about last year's playoffs. Like George Hill is clearly not the same guy. I think you can see that he's the catalyst seems to be his health. Healthy George Hill is playing actually pretty solid so far this season.
Agreed.
The other thing is Dallas cut this game to 86-85, and the Bucks followed that up by going on a 10-0 run. So it's a game of runs, and the Bucks made them when they did, made them when they needed to. So we get former Buck Christian Wood, who had a pretty solid game. I think he finished with 21 points. Brook Lopez blocked 4 shots. 3 of them were on Christian Wood.
Yep. There's still people complaining about that, which is crazy to me.
We wouldn't have Bobby Portis if we still had Christian Wood.
I like Bobby Portis.
I'll take Bobby Portis. I will. I can't say that this will ever be dethroned as my favorite Bobby Portis, but him laughing at Chris Paul.
Oh yeah, in the finals that was amazing.
Oh, so awesome! Like you can tell Bobby's just feeling himself, and he's got the swagger. Like you couldn't touch Bobby in that moment. It was so fucking awesome.
I'll say,
I want to go watch that.
Wow, he definitely sunned Chris Paul in that moment because he laughed at him like a little kid. Or when he was high stepping down the sidelines, that was also a great moment.
Yeah.
He got a technical for it, but come on, man, that moment was awesome.
All right, the Bucks have 4 games between tonight and next Wednesday. They play the Knicks tonight in New York. They're home against the Lakers on Friday, so getting a home game for Chris Middleton to come back, get him a homecoming, that would be awesome. And then they're at Charlotte on Saturday, and they're at Orlando on Monday. Give me a record prediction for those 4 games.
That's 4-0. The Knicks just played last night. They scored 140 against the Pistons. We're whooping that ass in about 6 minutes. The Lakers are a mess. Orlando is young, and Charlotte is Charlotte. I mean, Charlotte is the one game the Bucks, for some reason, like to struggle every once in a while in Charlotte. So it's probably the one game where if I
It
had
feels
to,
like
it'd
every
be
time we play
iffy.
Charlotte, they hit their franchise record in threes.
Every time. I will say I wish we had their play-by-play announcer because that guy is just fucking cuckoo
That
bananas.
dude's made of energy.
Imagine him with Giannis. Jesus.
That'd be fun.
That's like a match made in heaven.
Sure.
I will say that. But that's probably the one game if I had to pick one, I'd be like, yeah, that one's kind of iffy, but not really. The Bucks should win them all. The Bucks should be 4-0. We should be coming on this show and they should be 18-5, 6,
18-5.
Yeah, the Bucks should be 18-5 when we talk next Wednesday.
Yep, I agree. I have them also 4-0, even though 3 of those games are on the road. It's not a West Coast road trip like the Bucks sometimes struggle with those, but it's an East Coast road trip, so I think the Bucks are going to be okay with that.
Yes.
They've had a little bit of rest now because they haven't played since Sunday, so they've had 2 days off. So I think they're about to get ready and wax the Knicks because I think the Knicks are, even though they're not a great team, I still think they're overrated.
I agree with that. It's all because of the media.
I would say 2 of the top 5, 10, I'll say top 10. I would say 2 of the top 10 most overrated players in the NBA are on the Knicks.
I'd agree with that.
Which 2 are you thinking I'm thinking of?
R.J. Barrett.
Yep.
Right?
That's one.
And, goddamn, I can't think of his name. Power forward. Where's number 30?
Yep.
He's left-handed.
Yep.
Won the high school dunk contest.
I don't care about that.
I don't remember his name. I'm blanking. I'm thinking
because he's overrated. The fact that people thought he was going to be an
Julius
MVP
Randle.
candidate, Julius Randle. RJ Barrett and Julius Randle are 2 of the most overrated players in the NBA. The fact that people thought that Julius Randle was going to be an MVP candidate still to this day, like, makes my brain itch.
You got to be like a Bears fan and reach through your nose so you can itch it.
I was thinking going in through the ear because it's itchy up here. So, like, I don't think I'm going, like, up the nose and to get that spot. It's itchy, like, up here. That people thought that Julius Randle was going to be an MVP candidate.
Bears fans can do that because their brain is so small, so they can reach the back of it through their nose.
Oh, sure. Just careful not to pull it out when you take the finger out. Oh, that's mean. The last Bears fan I talked to was actually smart, and that was last Wednesday, but that was interesting to say.
Yeah, that's what I'll call that too. That was interesting.
Yeah. And then the fact that some of the people after that were coming at me on Twitter, and it's like, yep, I'm out.
Yeah,
I don't fuck around with trolling. Like, I get trash talking once in a while, but when it's just straight trolling, like, I'm out. I don't have time for that shit.
I hear you.
All right, man. Well, let's get a Bucks win. Is there anything else you want to throw out there for today?
Be nice. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. All right. After we were just being dicks about Bears fans having small brains, we're gonna tell you to be nice.
I mean, I've said it before. I've said it 100 million times. When it comes to sports, I will trash talk. But if we're in the middle, we're trash talking, and I find out what kind of person you are, I can be nice to you as a person. Sports is just an escape from reality. So be nice in life, I guess I'll say. Be nice in life.
That's fair. There's you can separate it because that is one of the things that we're trying to do is to help people apply, some of the sports principles that we're getting at into life. So, you can be nice to the Bears fan, the person, and still give them shit for being a Bears fan as their sports team. If Jake and I were from Chicago, we could still do this show the same way and still have the positive takeaways despite negative outcomes because we've done that all season with the Packers. Obviously, they've lost twice as many games as they've won so far. But this is weird to say, but we're still having fun with football season.
Hell yeah, man.
And we want to help other people do the same. Instead of waiting for the team to come save you, save yourself and find the positive takeaways, even in the negative outcomes.
Agreed. All right, man. Have a good night.
All right. Go Bucks.
Later,
Tim
bro.
said it too. Go Bucks.